Chapter 45-26. Qin Shao realized that something was wrong and rushed over. He found He Yu standing next to Tang Guo and introducing the photos in the album. The ones in front are from before I met young master. The ones in the back are from after I met young master. The ones in the back are basically photos of young master and me, as well as photos of young master alone. However, young master's body changed after he turned 12, so he stopped taking photos. This function hasn't been activated for a long time. He Yu. What are you doing? Do you want to die? Qin Zhao's face darkened when he saw what He Yu was doing. Why did this guy always do stupid things? After Tang Guo finished reading, she realized that there was another photo on the last page. Qin Shao happened to walk over. When he saw the photo, he hurriedly snatched it from Tang Guo's hands. He Yu was also a little scared. He had forgotten that there was a Xiaoguo photo of young master as a baby on the last page. Oh wow, was the young master going to kick him out this time? Qin Shao glared at He Yu. Get lost. He Yu hurriedly ran out. Qin Shao was also very embarrassed. They're all photos from when I was young. He Yu always likes to do stupid things like this. Tang Guo praised, very cute. I'm going for a walk with Sugar Bowl. Xiaoguo photos from when he was young were seen. Qin Shao also felt very uncomfortable. Qin Shao carried the album out. He Yu winked at the door and whispered, Young master, don't mind it. Get lost. Young master, I'm doing this for you. You're recovering quite well now. I want to give you a good impression. Girls like little boys. It's just that, apart from an accident, I forgot that there's a more intimate photo on the last page. Qin Shao was a little angry. Do you still know? Speaking of which, you'll have a different relationship in the future anyway. It's fine to take a look in advance. He Yu, be a human. Qin Shao threw the album at He Yu. Put it away. Sugar Ball is more obedient than you. A year later, Qin Shao had lost 1/3 of his weight. 2 years later, Qin Shao looked a little fatter than ordinary people because he was very tall, almost 1.9 meters. Now, he weighed a little more than 100 kilograms, so he didn't look particularly fat. 3 years later, Qin Shao regained his normal weight. Because of Tang Guo's secret help, his skin condition was the same as a normal person's, unlike many people who had lost weight and had various conditions. Moreover, for the sake of his health, Tang Guo extended the timeline to 3 years. The current Qin Shao could see the shadow of him when he was young. Qin Shao stood in front of the mirror and looked at the person inside in disbelief. It had only taken him 3 years to recover. Young master, you're so handsome now. He Yu praised, the doctor said that your body indicators are all normal and you can live a normal life. Also, I've already made the decision to customize a lot of clothes for you. I hope you won't be angry. Did you customize it for Xiaoguo? Yes, yes. How could I forget young master's darling? He Yu was a little excited. Young master, are you preparing to go to the business world? It's okay. Don't fall in love with me. Qin Shao reached out to He Yu. He Yu hurriedly handed the flowers to Qin Shao and chased after Qin Shao. Young master, you've recovered. With your intelligence and wisdom, you'll definitely shine in the business world soon. I'm serious. There are often games that are fun. Aren't professional managers doing well? Qin Shao said, if I go to work, who will play games with Xiaoguo? If I'm not around, who will fight for her on the leaderboard? Me. He Yu said, I can help on young master's behalf. He Yu, I don't need you to take care of me now. Qin Shao considered this seriously. Why don't I send you to the company? It's a waste of your talent to be an assistant. You should go to the company to learn how to manage things. He said, young master, I heard Tang Wan's voice. I'll go take a look. You go ahead. He ran away like a wisp of smoke, causing Qin Shao to laugh. He took the flowers and went to the room where Tang Guo was live streaming. There was a special seat for him. Tang Guo was already sitting on the chair and there was a pot of tea in his seat. Flowers. Qin Shao handed the flowers to Tang Guo. I went to pick them this morning and asked you to help me take care of them. Tang Guo took the flowers and put them in the vase next to her. Why did you wake up so early? You can see a different scenery if you wake up early. Qin Shao was infatuated with the days in the mountains and didn't want to go back to the city. The Peak. Chapter 45-27. After Qin Zhao's body recovered, he didn't choose to return to the city. As he said, he wanted to go to the business world to make a name for himself. As he said, his new career as an agent could take care of his business very well. Why should he work hard to do these things? The rest of his life was basically picked up. Naturally, he had to live the life he liked. What was the life he liked? It was to wake up early in the morning, see his favorite person, and then play games with them. As usual, he went to the live broadcast room and gave Tang Guo rockets. This habit seemed to be unchangeable. When it came to fighting for rankings, he never showed mercy. Are you really going to stay here? Tang Guo asked Qin Shao while playing the game. She wasn't afraid that the audience in the live broadcast room would hear them. Anyway, they weren't discussing anything secret. Qin Shao, I'm used to this kind of life. I don't want to go out. Isn't this place very good? The mountains are good, the water is good. Before Qin Shao finished speaking, the audience in the live broadcast room booed and flooded the bullet screen. Someone is good. Being good is the point. Since you're going to settle here, you have to renovate the place. Tang Guo suggested. Qin Shao replied, of course. I've already asked you to work on this. It can be started in a while. Let's raise another cat and let it play with Sugar Bowl. Qin Shao replied, why don't we go to the city to pick one after the broadcast ends? Okay, nothing's going on today. Tang Guo suddenly changed the topic. Come and get the blue. Qin Shao, right away. Live broadcast audience, ambiguous 43 inch. It's fine if you're chatting, but you don't forget to help get blue. Woo, the couple I'm talking about is real. I'm so touched. By the way, Guo Guijiang's teammates must think that Guo Guijiang is a boy and that the handsome guy who plays the game is a girl, right? They must think that Guo Guijiang is carrying girls. The brother in front, are you new? I've been here for a week. Then I'll tell you, brother. Everyone thinks so. Unless it's someone familiar with Guo Guijiang. Guo Guijiang has been privately chatted by many girls before, asking her to carry him. Those girls are dreaming too much. Guo Guijiang is handsome. Do you think it's their turn? Speaking of which, handsome skills seem to have improved quite a bit. Now, he can even play Glory with Fruit Jam. Although he's still much better than Fruit Jam, he's still at a level where he won't be a burden. Actually, this is also a skill. Speaking of which, this is all thanks to our Guo Guijiang skills. Qin Zhao's skills had indeed improved. One of the reasons for his poor skills in the past was that his physical condition caused his fingers to not be too nimble, and the corresponding reaction would not be so fast. Now that his body had recovered, it was naturally easier for him to do other things. When the news of Tang Guo and Qin Shao being together was announced, no one was surprised. They already knew that the couple they thought was real and sent their blessings one after another. At the platform's annual meeting after Qin Zhao's recovery, it was Qin Zhao's first appearance. He came with Tang Guo. The moment the two of them appeared, the official live stream channel almost collapsed. Countless comments flooded the screen again and again. At the annual meeting, Tang Guo met the female lead of this world, Lu Qian. Lu Qian was now sitting behind her. It could be seen that the other party's career was improving. Tang Guo and Lu Qian nodded. Lu Qian also smiled at her and occasionally chatted with her. The Summit. Chapter 45-28. Tang Guo noticed that there was a handsome young man sitting next to Lu Qian. The way he looked at Lu Qian was full of affection. She didn't need to think to know that he must be Lu Qian's boyfriend. Tang Guo hadn't paid attention to the situation of her adoptive and biological parents for a long time. Even her household registration was moved away by Zhang Qing. Now, her file was top secret and not many people looked at it. Although she live-streamed the game every day, she must have made a lot of contributions. Qin Xiao knew that she was doing some secret things, but he never asked. The construction of their new house was very smooth. In order to let the people who protected Tang Guo live there, Qin Xiao spent a lot of money. Because of Tang Guo, the land that was approved for them to build the house was very spacious. Because of this place, it became the place where Tang Guo and Qin Xiao lived. Some internet celebrities gradually came here, hoping to gain some popularity. However, before they could do anything, this place was sealed and ordinary people could no longer enter. Previously, Tang Guo secretly used spirit stones to set up an array in the spring to improve the spring water and the environment of this village. Finally, it attracted the attention of the higher-ups. They discovered that the water and crops in this place had a great effect on improving one's body after consuming them. Later, when they found out about Qin Xiao, they arranged for experts to come over to investigate. In the end, they found that it was because of the mountain spring here. Although they didn't understand what was wrong with the mountain spring, they could determine that the mountain spring here could be called the Spring of Life. Tang Guo knew that they probably couldn't figure out what was going on with the mountain spring itself. However, they could use the mountain spring to create many medicines that could treat some diseases. Although it wasn't too magical, it could greatly improve the human body. However, Tang Guo didn't expect that in the end, they would mix the mountain spring into lakes and oceans. Some of the more seriously polluted places improved many water quality problems. After Tang Guo found out, she threw a lot of spirit stones into the array in the mountain spring. She heard that diseases caused by the water quality and environmental problems were much less now. In her free time, Tang Guo still inquired about the situation of Tang Xiuan and his wife and Tang Jiandong and his wife. Tang Jiandong and his wife hadn't contacted her all these years because they thought that she hadn't paid off the debt she owed, and they were afraid of getting into debt. Her two sisters seemed to have divorced, and their children were unwilling to follow her. When the two sisters returned to live at home, Tang Jiandong and his wife did not scold them. Her two sisters still felt that her husband's family was too selfish. So what if they took some things to show filial piety to their maternal family and gave the money to their own brother? In their opinion, only their own younger brother would be good to them if he was successful. Even though they had married into their husband's family, they were still treated as outsiders. Because they always thought of Tang Xiaobao whenever they had something good, they didn't care about their children. Therefore, their children didn't want to follow her and couldn't get close to her. They simply turned around and ran back to their parents' home. Under the brainwashing of Tang Jiandong and his wife, they married separately again. This time, their families were further away, because the people in the nearby villages all knew what kind of family they were. Tang Jiandong and his wife received the betrothal gifts from the two of them. The two sisters were still the same as before. If there was anything good, they would take it home and keep it for Tang Xiaobao. Her husband's family couldn't take it anymore and threatened to divorce them if they continued to do so. The two sisters were fearless and continued to act. In the end, they divorced again. Tang Jiandong and his wife continued to arrange their marriages. This time, they married even further away. Some villagers kindly advised them to live well after they married over. They didn't want to have conflicts between their maternal and husband's families, or they would only harm themselves in the future. However, the two sisters didn't appreciate it. They thought that the villagers didn't want them to live well and told Tang Jiandong and his wife about it. The two families had a big argument and didn't want to interact with each other anymore. The two sisters didn't listen to the advice and continued to subsidize their maternal family. A few years later, they divorced again. Their children were still unwilling to be close to them. Everyone, the two sisters came back alone and moved back to the house in the family Tang East. They were still very diligent and always hoped that Tang Xiaobao would be successful. At first, Tang Jiandong and his wife were also very troubled by their constant divorce. They couldn't go on like this. Later, they found that the two of them could do a lot of work and felt that this was fine. Tang Jiandong tried his best to dote on the two of them and coaxed them to take care of Tang Xiaobao. The family worked together to help Tang Xiaobao buy a house in the city. In the end, Tang Xiaobao didn't get into a good school. He only went to a school that didn't have high scores and spent a lot of money. After graduation, he found a very ordinary job. However, the family still thought that he would be successful. After graduation, Tang Xiaobao moved into the house that the family bought for him. Later, the family started to arrange his marriage. After he got married, Tang Jiandong and his wife felt that they could live a happy life and moved in together. Tang Guo's eldest and second sisters also felt that they could live a happy life and moved into the new house. No matter how unhappy Tang Jiandong and his wife and Tang Xiaobao were, they didn't seem to hear it. They were immersed in the world of their little brother being successful, and they could also live a happy life. The house originally only had 3 rooms and 1 living room. Tang Xiaobao and his wife had 1 room, Tang Jiandong and his wife had 1 room, and the 2 sisters had 1 room. Tang Jiandong looked at the crowded house and felt that something was wrong. Tang Xiaobao's 2 sisters asked about his well-being every day and left all kinds of good things for him, excluding his wife. There wasn't a day when this family wasn't in chaos. Tang Xiaobao was divorced and had only been married for less than 2 years. When he was angry, his 2 sisters even said that the other party didn't know what was good for her and that their little brother was so good. They thought that with Tang Xiaobao's ability, he would definitely be able to find a virtuous wife. Tang Xiaobao remarried, but his life was still a mess. He threw a tantrum like a volcano and wanted his 2 sisters to move out. However, his 2 sisters said that he had changed and became unfilial. They were wholeheartedly good to him, but Tang Xiaobao wanted to chase them away for an outsider. Tang Jiandong and his wife stood at the side, feeling a little lost. Things seemed to be different from what they had imagined. Tang Jiandong only wanted to train his daughters to be people who would work for Tang Xiaobao without complaint. He didn't expect that his daughters would believe that Tang Xiaobao could live a happy life. Now, they were clinging to Tang Xiaobao and refused to leave. They didn't blame Tang Xiaobao. They said that Tang Xiaobao's wife, this outsider, had taught him bad things. Tang Jiandong's family's life was chaotic like this. They couldn't live a peaceful life. As for Tang Xiuan's family, they weren't any better. Their son and daughter were also good for nothing. They weren't young anymore, but they still went home to rely on their parents. They said that they had basically emptied Tang Xiuan and his wife's family fortune for their own families. Not only that, in the small noodle shop that the 2 of them opened, their 2 children often came to collect money with their own QR codes. As long as their 2 children didn't have much money, they would use their own QR codes to go to the shop. They didn't do any work and only waited for the customers to eat to collect money. Peak. Chapter 45-29. As for Tang Guo, she seems to have disappeared from their lives. No one thinks that she has any future prospects, let alone look for her. Later, Tang Tao and Tang Lulu accidentally discovered Tang Guo's existence. Before they could do anything, they were taken away and educated. Later, they never mentioned Tang Guo's existence. It wasn't that they didn't want to mention it, but they didn't dare. When Tang Guo was about to leave this world, she gave Zhang Qing a hard drive. This may be the last thing I can give you. What's wrong? Zhang Qing was puzzled. You want to retire early. There's no such thing as a normal retirement in our industry. The things in here are 20 years ahead of the world. With so many talents in our country, we should be able to gradually pull away. Zhang Qing frowned. Is your body out of your body? No. Tang Guo didn't explain further, but Zhang Qing took it to heart. He asked her bodyguards to keep an eye on her, and they didn't find anything wrong with her body. However, when the news of Tang Guo's death came, he didn't know what to say. On the day Tang Guo left this world, the viewers who were waiting in the live broadcast room early found it strange that Tang Guo hadn't broadcasted yet when it was time. When the platform announced that Tang Guo had left, they didn't dare to accept it at all. Young master, don't be sad. You didn't know how to comfort him. Qin Shao, you, take care of Tang Wan and the others. In a few days, I'll take care of the business in my hands and donate most of it. The other part will be left to you. Young master, don't take things too hard. Qin Shao patted Hiyu's shoulder and smiled faintly. I'm not taking things too hard. It's not that you don't understand some things. I just have to catch up with her as soon as possible. If I'm late, it'll be very disadvantageous for me. Okay, you can go now. In the end, Qin Shao donated the business to Zhang Cheng's department. When Zhang Cheng received the news, he didn't know what to say. Although we can't publicize what you two have done now, everything you've contributed will be known by the world in the future. In fact, Qin Shao didn't care about this at all. He hoped that Zhang Qing would talk less nonsense. He was very anxious now. If he was late, he would miss the opportunity to meet them in advance. It really wasn't a good thing. Why were there such troublesome people in every world? They would always delay his journey to the next world. After dealing with the business, Qin Shao patted Tang Wan's head one morning and closed his eyes. Before he closed his eyes, he said to Tang Wan in a low voice, Tang Wan, you'll take care of Hiyu from now on. Keep an eye on that kid. I'm afraid he won't be able to think things through and do something stupid. Tang Meatball barked twice at Qin Shao and finally started whimpering. Many years later, a computer science teacher who received a new edition of teaching materials was looking through the teaching materials to prepare a lesson plan. However, when he saw a certain page, he was suddenly stunned. This is... Seeing the photo and the introduction on it, she hurriedly opened the dusty photo album. Looking at the rare photos inside, her eyes finally couldn't help but turn red. Honey, what's wrong? The teacher suddenly raised his head and quickly grabbed the man beside him. Come and take a look. The husband and wife met through online games. At that time, she was a loyal fan of Tang Guo and was very bad at playing games. Later, she found a wild king in Tang Guo's fan group, who was her current husband. Hubby, look. It's fruit jam. It's fruit jam. The teacher choked and said, it turns out that the internet technology has improved so quickly over the years. It's all thanks to fruit jam. When the man heard this, he was also stunned. The two of them stared at the young photo and introduction in the teaching materials and sighed. When they were young, did they really become fans of a celestial streamer? Margaret, the school bell has gone to the new world. I'm looking forward to it. Ziyun, Margaret, tell me the truth. Margaret, shut up. I won't listen. I can't hear you. Don't be a killjoy. I won't admit defeat until the end. Chi Shao, Margaret, do you know what it means to deceive yourself? Margaret, I don't understand. I haven't studied before. Mo Yuntian, forget it. By the way, isn't there a saying that you can never wake up a person who's pretending to be asleep? Margaret, I hope that in the next world, the school bell will be in a magical world. Alan, maybe it's my magical world. Harold, yes, that's right. Margaret, get lost. Top. Chapter 45-30. Do you like to eat sour or spicy food recently? The voice sounded like an old lady, and her tone was excited. Sour. This voice sounded very calm, but it gave Tanguo an inexplicable feeling of oppression and discomfort. Good. Sour boy and spicy girl. Now I might be able to see the birth of a little grandchild. This time, it will definitely be a good grandchild. It was the old lady's voice from just now. She seemed to be even more excited. Yuxuan, eat more. You can't be picky when you're pregnant. You have to eat everything so that you can give our family Tang a big fat grandchild as soon as possible. Don't eat nothing just for your figure. That won't do. Tanguo felt the old lady's enthusiasm. Her consciousness suddenly returned to reality and she could see everything in front of her clearly. She looked up and saw an old lady with a face full of wrinkles. She was all smiles as she picked up food for a pregnant woman. This woman was sitting next to her with a protruding belly. She looked like she was about 7 months old. The old lady kept putting some greasy food into the woman's bowl. Tanguo saw the woman frown slightly. In the end, she put the food in the bowl into her mouth like a machine. She also noticed that the old lady looked satisfied. The woman barely said anything. The old lady felt that it wasn't enough. She tried her best to put what she thought was nutritious into the woman's bowl. Soon, there was a small mountain of food. Tanguo felt that the woman didn't seem to like the food very much. However, she seemed to want to complete the ritual. She slowly ate the food in the bowl even though she didn't like it at all. She looked a little numb. Tanguo couldn't help but frown. She didn't know if the old lady noticed her gaze, but she looked at her with a straight face. Xiaogua, don't look at your mother. Hurry up and eat. Your mother is pregnant with your brother now. She has to eat more so that your brother can be born healthy. Your mother eats 1 person. 2 people consume it. She has to eat better. Children should be more sensible. Tanguo clearly didn't do anything, but the old lady thought that she wanted to snatch the food. But there was so much food on the table. How much could a child like her eat? Besides, this family didn't look poor. It didn't seem to affect anything if she ate a little more, right? Xiaogua, what do you want to eat? The woman's voice suddenly sounded. Her gaze landed on Tanguo's face. What do you want to eat? Mommy will get it for you. Tanguo randomly pointed at a dish. She watched as the woman picked up the food for her. Compared to before, this woman looked much more lively. She was sure that this woman loved her daughter. Let's eat. Tell mommy what you like to eat. A smile appeared on the woman's face. It was so gentle that Tanguo almost forgot how robotic the woman looked when she first regained consciousness. She didn't look like a real person at all. Okay, Tanguo replied. The old lady opposite him was not very happy. Children like to be picky about food. They only like to eat good food and not vegetables. It's not good for their health. Old Madame Fu nagged for a while. It was not that she did not want to give Tanguo any food, but that she was a picky eater. The woman didn't respond. She just lowered her head and ate. Occasionally, she would put delicious food in Tanguo's bowl. Tang Guo wanted to see the memories of this world. She hurriedly ate a little and put down her bowl and chopsticks, saying that her stomach hurt a little. She hid in the bathroom, locked the bathroom door, and began to receive the memories. Peak. Chapter 45-31. Before she received the memories of this world, she thought that she had come to a family that valued boys over girls and that some family matters had happened. After reading the memories, she realized that things weren't that simple. Valuing boys over girls was indeed one of the reasons for the original owner's tragedy. It was even the beginning of the tragedy. However, there was a preference for males here, and something even worse was happening. The original owner grew up in such an environment and finally developed such an extreme personality. The old lady who spoke just now was called Jiang Juxiang. She was the original owner's biological grandmother. She was a classic example of valuing boys over girls. The woman who had a gentle smile on her face when she picked up food for her was her mother, Yang Yuxuan. She had a father. Her father should be busy at the restaurant. Their family opened a restaurant in the city center and business was good. Their family wasn't rich but they didn't lack money either. Her father was an only child so the old lady really hoped to have a grandson. But because of some reasons, she hoped for a grandson. Her mother, Yang Yuxuan, was tormented. Not only was it tormented physically, but it also hurt her mentally. The reason was that her father, Tang Tailin, didn't like her mother, Yang Yuxuan. The two got married through an introduction. Tang Tailin was quite handsome. He was tall and thin, fair and clean. When he smiled, he was a bit shy. He was very popular in the matchmaking market. Tang Tailin got married mainly to complete the old lady's task. He got married and had children to carry on the family line. Yang Yuxuan, on the other hand, had a good impression of him after meeting him and threw herself at him. Their marriage went very smoothly and quickly. However, only Yang Yuxuan was moved. Tang Tailin hated her very much, but he had to complete the task of a husband and wife with her, which was to have a child. After hard work, they had Tang Guo. The old lady, Jiang Juxiang, was obviously not satisfied. She urged the two to have more children. She had to have a grandson. Tang Tailin, on the other hand, rejected it. He didn't like women at all. Asking him to sleep with a woman was simply disgusting. But the old lady promised him that as long as they could make a son, he wouldn't have to deal with it. After hard work, Yang Yuxuan got pregnant again. Actually, not long after they got married, Yang Yuxuan noticed Tang Tailin's coldness. Being with her was like completing a task. However, she really liked this person and thought that she could warm this person up. However, after so many years, she did not manage to warm this person up. Even after she got pregnant for the second time, she inadvertently found out about a piece of devastating news. She knew that Tang Tailin didn't like her, but she didn't know that Tang Tailin didn't like women and had a man in his heart. Old Madame Yi knew all of this. She even heard it. Old Madame Yi promised Tang Tailin that as long as she gave birth to a grandchild, she would definitely not force him anymore. Ever since she found out about this, Yang Yuxuan had been living in a daze every day. She didn't dare to ask anything, but she did feel that Tang Tailin had become colder. Every time he saw her, he would stare at her stomach. During her pregnancy, Yang Yuxuan was depressed. To the old lady's disappointment, Yang Yuxuan gave birth to a daughter, but the old lady didn't give up and encouraged them to have another son. Yang Yuxuan saw the disgust and coldness in Tang Tailin's eyes, but under the old lady's expectant gaze, she still agreed. Facing such an environment, Yang Yuxuan's condition worsened. In a daze, she carried the child and jumped out of the window of the room. Both her and the child died. When she jumped, the original owner ran into the room to see her. In her memory, the original owner didn't speak for a week because of this. Climax. Chapter 45-32. The news of Yang Yuxuan jumping off a building while carrying her newborn child did not cause any psychological pressure to Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin. Jiang Juxiang told everyone that ever since Yang Yuxuan was pregnant, she did not let her do any housework. She did all the housework and every meal was carefully prepared for Yang Yuxuan. She dared to swear that she did not mistreat Yang Yuxuan. She did not know why Yang Yuxuan could not figure it out. Perhaps she was upset that she could not give birth to a son and could not figure it out. Jiang Juxiang's words spread like wildfire. In the end, the news articles about Yang Yuxuan changed to a certain pregnant woman who couldn't give birth to a son for her husband's family because she preferred boys over girls. In the end, she couldn't figure it out and jumped off a building with her newborn daughter. Both mother and daughter died. When Jiang Juxiang was interviewed by the reporters, she also said the same thing. She did not feel that there was anything wrong with what she said. When Tang Tailin was interviewed, he was silent. The image of him with his head lowered was mistaken for sadness and a man's lash stubbornness. So, Yang Yuxuan's death did not affect them much. Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin became good mothers-in-law and the role models of good men. At that time, there were a lot of intelligent comments on the internet. If I had a mother-in-law like that, I would wake up smiling in my dreams. I don't know what this woman thought. If my mother-in-law could cook for me and do the housework every day, I would be so happy. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law was not even willing to take care of the child, let alone cook for me and do the housework. She only knows how to play cards and dance all day. This woman is too extreme. As a woman, I am really envious of her. She has such a good mother-in-law and such a handsome and affectionate husband. In the end, because she could not give birth to a son, she jumped off a building. What a joke. She doesn't cherish her life. Thinking about that little girl who was just born, I feel so pitiful. A woman like her is not fit to have a child. She doesn't know how lucky she is. If she wanted to die, couldn't she die far away? Why did she die with the child? She is a vicious woman. Luckily, she died. If she implicated others in the future, who knows what would happen? The little girl is so pitiful. She has such a heartless mother. There was no reversal in the news because everyone felt that Yang Yuxuan was being pretentious. Yang Yuxuan's parents did come over to make trouble, but in the end, they didn't make any trouble because Yang Yuxuan jumped off the building by herself. The neighbors all knew that Jiang Juxiang was indeed a diligent person. She did housework and helped her daughter-in-law cook. She was busy every day and didn't let Yang Yuxuan do any important work. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that Jiang Juxiang was a hard-working mother-in-law who treated her daughter-in-law very well. They thought that Yang Yuxuan was being stubborn and couldn't figure it out. It had nothing to do with Jiang Juxiang. Yang Yuxuan's family couldn't do anything either. It seemed that all of this was reasonable, even if they were unwilling to accept Yang Yuxuan's death. Yang Yuxuan's matter ended just like that, and it only caused a little ripple in the family. From then on, the original owner became very quiet. As she grew older, she became more and more disgusted with Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin. Although she didn't know much when she was young, she knew that her mother was very depressed and unhappy. Vertex. Chapter 45-33. Outsiders only knew that Jiang Juxiang was a diligent person who didn't let Yang Yuxuan do any housework. But they didn't know how much pressure Jiang Juxiang put on Yang Yuxuan because of giving birth to a son every day. In fact, giving birth to a son would only cause some pressure on Yang Yuxuan at most. If Tang Tailin was more sincere and nice to her, she would probably be willing to give birth to a son based on how much she liked Tang Tailin. Unfortunately, the reality was not like that. What overwhelmed Yang Yuxuan was not giving birth to a son, but Tang Tailin's indifference and disgust. What she couldn't accept the most was that Tang Tailin didn't like her and even hated to touch her body. But in order to complete Jiang Juxiang's task, he endured the discomfort and did some intimate things with her. From the first time, there were no emotions and impulses caused by love. There was only indifference and rejection. He was like a machine that finished the task hastily. This gave her a feeling that she was just a tool. At first, she thought that Tang Tailin just didn't like her. Later, she found out that Tang Tailin liked men. Her heart disease for many years, coupled with the unstable hormones during pregnancy, led to the final tragedy. From then on, Tang Tailin didn't marry anyone. No matter how Jiang Juxiang forced him, his attitude was much tougher than before. The funny thing was that every time Jiang Juxiang forced him, he would say seriously, "Mom, do you want to force someone to death? You know that I'm not suitable to marry a woman. Why do you still force me? You forced Yang Yuxuan to death, and now you want to force me to death." Yang Yuxuan just passed away. Are you so impatient? Outsiders don't know what's going on, but don't you think I don't know? Do you know that I'll be the one who jumps out of the house one day? Jiang Juxiang was frightened. Every time she mentioned this, Tang Tailin would use this excuse, which would always make Jiang Juxiang give up on the idea. In fact, Yang Yuxuan's death was a relief for Tang Tailin. He even had an excuse to threaten Jiang Juxiang. He didn't have to do uncomfortable things with a woman he didn't like in order to deal with Jiang Juxiang. God knew how much he hated women's bodies. He didn't care about Yang Yuxuan's death at all, but Yang Yuxuan's death could be used as an excuse, so he didn't mind at all. People outside thought that he was a man who kept his chastity for his wife. If the world should call him an infatuated husband, and let him escape from things he did not like, he would gladly do so. Jiang Juxiang was in a dilemma. No matter what she did, she couldn't force Tang Tailin to comply. Tang Tailin seemed to have found a way to frighten Jiang Juxiang. Since she couldn't have any more golden grandchildren, Jiang Juxiang turned her attention to the original owner. She treated the original owner kindly, which was better than ever. Unfortunately, at this time, the original owner was already sensible. She couldn't forget the things that happened when she was young. It was Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin who had killed her mother. When Yang Yuxuan was pregnant, she would often talk to herself about some family matters. The original owner knew about it. It was just that she didn't understand when she was young. When she grew up and understood, she felt guilty about this matter. If she had been more sensible when she was young, she might not have lost her mother. She hated Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin. She started to become extreme. But because Jiang Juxiang only had this one granddaughter, she doted on her a lot. If the story stopped here, it would just be an ordinary tragic family. When this girl grew up, she would at most not be able to get along with her family or never forgive them. Unfortunately, this story was just a part of the supporting female lead's past. The real story was still behind. The Peak. Chapter 45-34. The previous host became an insensible child in the eyes of others. Every time she spoke sarcastically to Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin, there would be a large group of people who sympathized with them. Since junior high school, the previous host had applied to live in school. Jiang Juxiang saw that there was no way to have a grandson, so she could only dote on the previous host and listen to her. The previous host had a classmate and good friend called Meng Shi. If the previous host was a cold person who didn't get close to people, then Meng Shi was a little warm bottle. No matter the occasion, she could liven up the atmosphere and was liked by people. But what many people didn't know was that the happy Meng Shi had a complicated family relationship. The reason why the original owner had a good relationship with Meng Shi was because she had a good family relationship with Meng Shi. Meng Shi's family consisted of her grandmother, father, stepmother, and younger brother. Her biological mother had divorced her father many years ago. And her grandmother Zhang Yunfang was like the previous host's grandmother Jiang Juxiang. They were both people who wanted to have grandchildren. Meng Shi's mother divorced her father because she had a difficult labor when giving birth to her. Later on, it was difficult for her to get pregnant, so Zhang Yunfang made a fuss. Zhang Yunfang's grandmother was very bad to Meng Shi. She didn't like her at all and left all the good things for her younger brother. It was said that with a stepmother, there would be a stepfather. This was the case for Meng Shi. The only consolation was that her mother would often contact her and tell her to be strong since she was young. It would be fine when she grew up. So no matter if her grandmother or father didn't like her, she was an optimistic person and believed that her life would get better. When the previous host took the initiative to meet Meng Shi, the other party was kicked out of the house. Although Meng Shi's eyes were red, she said that it was fine. If the family got angry later, she could go in. They were classmates. Because of this, the previous host understood Meng Shi and felt that she was very similar to her. Slowly, they became friends. The previous host felt that Meng Shi was very pitiful, but she also envied her. At least her mother was still around. But Meng Shi's life wasn't very good, so she would share all the good things with Meng Shi. Meng Shi also liked the previous host as a friend and treated her sincerely. Meng Shi was a person who would share her family matters with others. She felt that it wasn't a big deal. Using her mother's words, no matter how big the hurdle or how sad the heart was, it would be comfortable to talk about it. The original owner wasn't such a person. She didn't want to share her sadness. Because no matter what she said, those who didn't understand the situation outside would only misunderstand her. Ever since she was young, everyone thought that she was a bad-tempered child. It was because her family spoiled her too much that she had a bad personality. They all felt that she had a good grandmother and a good father. However, she didn't know that her current appearance was caused by these two people. She wouldn't share it with anyone, including Meng Shi. It wasn't that she didn't trust Meng Shi, but she didn't think it was necessary. She was used to hiding her little secret and didn't want to tell anyone. Meng Shi's happiness was something she could never have, so why should she destroy Meng Shi's happiness? When Meng Shi envied her and said that her grandmother was so nice and treated her well, he was so envious and wanted to have such a grandmother. The original owner didn't say anything. She was used to it because outsiders always said that her grandmother was very good, and she couldn't defend herself. Meng Shi said that her father was also very good. He always listened to her. They were all of the same age as her parents. Why was her father not only good, but also so handsome and young? If she did not mention it, he would simply be a handsome little brother. Vertex. Chapter 45-35. The host didn't explain, because everyone else thought so. When Meng Shi said, "So your father can't forget your mother." When the feelings between them were really too touching, the original owner finally retorted. She told Meng Shi that there were no feelings between her father and mother. Of course, she didn't say anything else, but this piqued Meng Shi's curiosity. Meng Shi later found out about the host's mother's death from Jiang Juxiang. Of course, the version she knew was the one that was on the news. She suddenly felt that the host was even more pitiful, and also felt that their family was pitiful. She thought that the host's father must have felt guilty, so he didn't marry for so many years. Later, Meng Shi met a person who was the school bully. He didn't like to study and was best at fighting. It was said that he was the son of the school director. After a while, the two became familiar with each other. In the midst of fighting, they developed some feelings that they didn't know about. This school bully was the male lead of this world, Wen Ran. The school director was Wen Ran's father, and he was also the head of the Wen Corporation. Because of his family, Wenran's personality was extreme. He often did things that students didn't dare to do, so no one in the school dared to provoke him. After meeting Meng Shi, many things happened between them. Meng Shi's existence was an eyesore to those who liked Wenran, so they often bullied Meng Shi. The host and Wenran were the ones who helped Meng Shi out. Later, Meng Shi gradually entered Wenran's circle and urged him to take school seriously, but Wenran was very repulsed. He would only pretend when Meng Shi urged him. Later, Meng Shi found out about Wenran's family and helped Wenran and his father solve the gap between them, gaining the approval of Wenran's father, Wenlang. Later, she found out another secret. Wenran's father, Wenlang, and the host's father, Tang Tailin, were lovers. The two were in love, but their families forced them to marry someone they didn't like. In her understanding, after Tang Tailin got married, he tried his best to be a responsible husband. In the end, the host's mother couldn't figure it out and jumped off a building because she didn't have a son. She felt that Tang Tailin was very pitiful and unlucky to marry such a woman. As for Wenlang, she thought that it was because the Wen family was too powerful that Wenlang couldn't control his own life and was forced to marry someone he didn't like. She didn't know how many stories like this she had read. She felt that it was a pity that this pair of lovers didn't end up together. Wenran's character was actually caused by Wenran's mother. She was a person who only cared about money and didn't care about her son. This made Meng Shi feel that these two men were very unlucky. She knew that the two of them still had each other, so she was very excited. She was a bit of a fujoshi to begin with, and now that she had seen the real one, how could she not matchmake them? Even though both of them were middle-aged, they still maintained themselves well. Meng Shi felt that they were very pleasing to the eye when they stood together. Meng Shi even persuaded the original owner that since Wenlang and Tang Tailin were true love, why not let them rekindle their feelings, lest they have regrets in their hearts. As expected, the original owner and Meng Shi broke off their relationship. He even said that if Tang Tailin dared to be together with Wenlang, he would sever their father-daughter relationship. As time passed, Tang Tailin actually took a liking to this daughter of the original owner. No matter what, she was still his blood, his descendant. Vertex. Chapter 45-36. So the threat of the original owner did have some effect. But Tang Tailin couldn't stand Meng Shi's bad ideas one after another. Wenlang also cooperated with her, making it difficult for Tang Tailin to ignore her. The original owner began to target Meng Shi, but now Meng Shi had someone to protect her. Tang Tailin felt that the original owner was not sensible. Wenlang could tolerate it at first, but Wenran might not. When Tang Tailin and Wenlang slowly got in touch, the original owner seemed to go crazy and did all kinds of extreme actions. When the two were dating, she would suddenly appear and pour wine on them, making them very embarrassed and scolding Tang Tailin for being shameless. As long as Tang Tailin and Wenlang appeared together, she would fiercely scold them for being disgusting and perverted. She could no longer control herself. She even tried to hire a hitman to kill them, but of course, she didn't succeed. As long as the two were together, she would think of how her mother jumped down from a 10-story building in front of her eyes. Every time she recalled that scene, she would feel suffocated and desperate. The two of them definitely could not be together. Meng Shi tried to persuade the original owner, but the original owner didn't appreciate it. She slapped Meng Shi as a common thing. Meng Shi didn't feel that she was wrong. She was just matchmaking two lovers. Many people knew that the president of Wen's company was having an affair with a man. It was the original owner who made a big fuss. She wrote an article and published it in the news. In it, she wrote all kinds of reasons, but it didn't make any waves. Wen's company was Wenlang's. It was easy for him to do something. In the end, the original owner was labeled as homophobic and mentally ill. Everyone thought that she was sick. Her crazy behavior made it difficult for people not to think that she was sick. Wen Lang sent her to the mental hospital openly, and no one stopped him. Meng Shi often accompanied Wen Ran to the mental hospital to see the original owner. But every time, the original owner was very agitated and scolded her. Was the original owner really mentally ill? Maybe a little psychological problem, but it was definitely not to the extent of being locked in the mental hospital. Wen Lang and Tang Tailin were officially together. Jiang Juxiang seemed to understand and didn't stop it. At this time, it was impossible to stop it. Wen Ran also married Meng Shi and lived a happy life. Every year, Meng Shi would return to the mental hospital to see the original owner many times. He seemed to be very concerned about her. The original owner was never released and lived in a mental hospital for her entire life. Wen Lang instructed the hospital staff to take good care of Tang Tailin, and Tang Tailin was very grateful. Tang Gua had finished reading the memories and was sitting on the toilet seat, thinking. In this world, the first thing she had to do was to stop Yang Yuxuan from committing suicide. She had to let Yang Yuxuan regain her freedom and leave Tang Tailin. As for the rest, he would talk about it later. She stood up, opened the bathroom door, and walked to the dining room. Yang Yuxuan was no longer at the dining table. Jiang Juxiang was cleaning up the table, and she didn't ask her to do anything. Jiang Juxiang was a very hardworking and capable person if she didn't favor boys over girls and connive at her son's marriage scam. Tang Gua pushed the door open and walked into Yang Yuxuan's room. Ever since Yang Yuxuan got pregnant, Tang Tailin quickly moved to another room to sleep and didn't care much about her. Tang Gua walked into the room and saw Yang Yuxuan sitting below the window. Yang Yuxuan was sitting on a chair, looking out of the window as if in a daze. Mom! Tang Gua walked over and tugged at Yang Yuxuan's sleeve. She was only 5 years old now, and her voice was a little childish. Yang Yuxuan liked this daughter very much, so even if there were some psychological problems, she still turned to look at Tang Gua when Tang Gua called her. The confusion on her face just now had disappeared, and a smile appeared on her lips. She touched Tang Gua's head. What's wrong? Do you want to hear a story? No, I'll tell you a story. Tang Gua picked up a book. This was bought by Yang Yuxuan a long time ago, probably when she was pregnant with her. It was obvious that Yang Yuxuan was looking forward to her arrival. Yang Yuxuan laughed. Does Gua Gua know all the words in the book? When did you learn? Didn't you read it to me before? After listening to it a lot, I remembered it. Yang Yuxuan was a little surprised. She touched Tang Gua's head again. Gua Gua is so smart. Mom forgot. Then, Mom, I'll read it to you. Okay. The top. Chapter 45-37. Tang Gua flipped open the book. The words inside were actually very simple, and there were also very cute pictures. This was one of the simpler books that she had specially chosen. After Yang Yuxuan agreed, she moved a small stool over and sat beside Yang Yuxuan. She opened the book and placed it on Yang Yuxuan's lap. Then she picked a short story and started reading. She was only 5 years old, and her voice was a little childish. She looked very young and cute. When she read the first sentence of the short story, all of Yang Yuxuan's attention was on her. She had a faint smile on her face as she stared unblinkingly at the little girl leaning on her lap. Her lips couldn't help but curl upwards. Because of Xiaolu's mother's cleverness, she was able to bring Xiaolu back to the forest and live a happy life. Tang Gua saw that Yang Yuxuan's condition was good. After reading the adventures of Xiaolu's mother and Xiaolu, she flipped to a new story and continued reading. Yang Yuxuan didn't ask her to stop. Instead, she listened attentively. The smile on her face didn't disappear. After reading 3 short stories in a row, Yang Yuxuan asked softly, "You're really amazing. You can actually recognize so many words. Did the kindergarten teacher teach you this?" "Mom taught me." Tang Guo blinked. Her small face was very beautiful. That cute child appearance made the system twitch. Why didn't it realize that the host was so good at pretending to be a child? Thinking about Yang Yuxuan's situation, it felt that the host really had to be more attentive this time. Although Yang Yuxuan looked fine now, that was because the host was her beloved daughter. If she thought of other unhappy things, her whole person would immediately be enveloped by a layer of dark clouds. When that time came, her condition would be very bad. Just reading stories was impossible to treat Yang Yuxuan's illness. Her mental illness was very serious. Other than improving her living environment, she also had to use medicine to control it. However, she was pregnant now. She was already 6 or 7 months old. She couldn't simply take medicine. She could only wait until she gave birth to the child before she could prescribe medicine. During this time, the host had to stabilize Yang Yuxuan's emotions and try her best not to let her illness worsen. Tang Guo's answer stunned Yang Yuxuan. She didn't teach Guogua these. She had bought these books many years ago when she was pregnant with Guogua. At that time, she was determined to be the best mother and give her child the best. Therefore, she bought a lot of books on early education. Basically, she bought everything that was recommended on the market. While she was pregnant, she read these books one by one to Guogua, who was still in her stomach. After giving birth to Guogua, she had not touched these things because her married life seemed to have become very bad. No, it should be that her married life had never been good. All the good things were just wishful thinking on her part. For her second pregnancy, she no longer had the same expectations as before. She no longer had any expectations for the child in her belly. She even hated being pregnant. The child in her stomach was not the result of love. It was a child that Tang Tailin had endured his disgust to be with her. So why was she pregnant with this child? Regardless of whether this child was a daughter or a son, the child should not exist. Yes, it shouldn't exist at all. Vertex. Chapter 45-38. The smile on Yang Yuxuan's face disappeared, and her eyes became cold. She stared at her bulging belly without saying a word. Her whole person became gloomy, as if covered by dark clouds. Why would she be pregnant? This child was not expected at all. She did not expect it, and neither did Tang Tailin. Jiang Juxiang only hoped that this child was a son. So, this child really shouldn't have come. Yang Yuxuan's hand pressed on her belly. Her face was cold, and she was motionless. She looked a little scary. Mom. Seeing Yang Yuxuan's appearance, Tang Guo knew that she remembered something unpleasant again, which made her in a bad state. Mom, I'll read another story for you, but I've already read 3 stories. It's not good for children to listen to stories all the time. Sing a song. Mom used to like singing to me. Tang Guo's childish voice once again attracted Yang Yuxuan's attention. Yang Yuxuan's gaze shifted from her bulging belly to Tang Guo. Looking at the little girl's expectant and happy face, the gloominess on her face dissipated like clouds and mist. She touched Tang Guo's head lovingly and said softly, "Can Guogua still sing?" "Yes, I used to sing to Guogua." Yang Yuxuan paid attention to Tang Guo's words this time. When did Mom sing to Guogua? Why can't Mom remember? Guogua can't remember. It was a long time ago. Anyway, Mom sang to Guogua. Guogua listened to it every day and learned it. Tang Guo was, of course, referring to the fact that she was still in Yang Yuxuan's belly. This time, she had to be a genius baby to explain why she was different from ordinary children. Because young Yuxuan was popular with her family, she had a psychological illness. In addition, she was still young, so it was reasonable that no one found out that she was a genius baby. Tang Tailin didn't pay attention to her at all. Although Jiang Juxiang didn't treat her badly, she didn't like that she was a girl, let alone pay attention to her education. If she had a happy family, she would have paid attention to her education very early. Her parents would have taken her to a lot of parent-child activities. It was not too late now. She had to let Yang Yuxuan find out that she was an omnipotent genius baby and give her hope to continue living. First of all, she had to let Yang Yuxuan find herself and understand that her existence was very important to her baby. Then, what she was showing now was all thanks to Yang Yuxuan's early education. That way, Yang Yuxuan would feel a great sense of accomplishment. Being acknowledged could also be considered as a temporary stabilizing of her mental state. When a person was needed, they would hesitate before throwing themselves into the arms of the god of death. She, the genius baby, really needed Yang Yuxuan, a very good mother. She hoped that Yang Yuxuan could feel it. "Mommy, Guogua sang for you." Tang Gua didn't wait for Yang Yuxuan to come back to her senses and started singing. When she went to flip through the books, she found that all the books had traces of being flipped through. Those books could only be read by Yang Yuxuan. The book she was holding had songs accompanying it. They were all very simple songs. She could understand the lyrics and music on it. However, she couldn't say that she understood it. Instead, she had to insist that it was Yang Yuxuan who taught her. She learned it in her mother's womb, which meant that Yang Yuxuan's education was very successful. Yang Yuxuan was attracted by Tang Gui's childish voice and came back to her senses. A child's voice singing such a cute song really sounded cheerful. However, no matter how cheerful the song was, she would only show a faint smile. It was difficult for her to laugh out loud like before her marriage. Peak. Chapter 45-39. She didn't know when, but she seemed to have lost a lot of her ability to express her feelings and could no longer laugh. Even so, she was still attracted by Tang Gua's singing and even hummed along. She had forgotten when she had taught Guogua. Could it be that her memory had deteriorated to this point? Tang Gua couldn't explain that she had learned in her mother's womb. Some things were better left to Yang Yuxuan to discover on her own. She was going to take Yang Yuxuan out to get some sun later. Fortunately, it was the holidays and she didn't have to go to school. Even if school started in the future, she wouldn't be at ease. It seemed that she had to use the paper doll to help keep an eye on Yang Yuxuan. "You're really good." Yang Yuxuan knew that it was good for children to have a strong desire to perform. Her daughter was indeed very good. She didn't go out of tune and sang very well. Of course, she wanted to praise her. "Mom, the sun is warm outside. Let's go out for a walk. Walk after dinner and live to be 99. Yang Yuxuan's lips curved. "Who taught you? Why do you learn everything?" "The last time I went to the doctor said that you have to walk more when you're pregnant. That way, you can give birth smoothly and it won't be so painful." Yang Yuxuan was stunned. She didn't expect Tang Gua to remember so clearly. Tang Tailin never paid attention to these things. She was like a pregnant woman who had lost her husband. From time to time, Jiang Juxiang would remind her to go downstairs or walk in the room when she had nothing to do. She didn't want to have a difficult birth and have to go through a cesarean section. Jiang Juxiang also taught her about the consequences of a cesarean section. What she cared about the most was that she didn't know how long it would take for her to give birth after the cesarean section. Her daughter cared about her health. Jiang Juxiang cared about whether she could get pregnant quickly if she gave birth to a daughter. Even though she seemed to have lost a lot of her ability to express her emotions, she suddenly felt a little warm in her heart. Tang Gui didn't care whether Yang Yuxuan agreed or not. She grabbed her hand and pulled her out. Yang Yuxuan didn't argue and followed. Tang Gui walked very slowly. Tang Gui took a step and stopped as if she was waiting for Yang Yuxuan. Yang Yuxuan followed in a daze. It seemed like she hadn't been valued like this in a long time. The sun was not bad today. When the elevator opened, there were still many people standing inside. Tang Gui still used a child's voice to greet the people inside. "I'm sorry, uncles and aunties. My mother is pregnant. Can you please make some space?" The people inside looked at such a cute little baby and then looked at Yang Yuxuan. They immediately reacted and squeezed to the side while laughing. They were still talking about how sensible children nowadays were. They knew how to dote on their pregnant mother at such a young age. Yang Yuxuan didn't know how to respond to the compliments of the people around her who were talking about her cute daughter. Ever since she got pregnant, she had been very resistant to going downstairs. Because going downstairs for a walk was for the sake of the baby in her belly, as if she was a pregnancy tool. The people in the elevator did not greet her, nor did they praise her with smiles like they did now. Because what she heard the most every day was Jiang Juxiang telling her that she wanted to give birth to a boy so that she wouldn't let down the family. She stared at her stomach every day and prayed for her little grandson to be well. Her little grandson would definitely come out healthy. His words made Yang Yuxuan very disgusted. She was against the baby in her belly being a boy, and she was even against the fact that she was pregnant. Vertex. Chapter 45-40. Every time she went downstairs, she took the elevator numbly and did not see the people around her clearly. She only felt that everywhere was cold. Even when the sun shone on her, she could not feel the warmth. This time, it seemed a little different. The surroundings were a little noisy, but she did not hate this kind of noise. Her guogua was talking to the people in the elevator with her baby voice. Even if she was distracted and did not hear what was said clearly, her mood was much calmer. Those voices were not harsh at all. When she walked out of the elevator, she finally heard what the people were saying. "That little girl is so cute. If only she was my daughter. I also want a little granddaughter like her. She's so obedient. I also feel that I can't do it anymore. I hope my wife can give birth to a little girl." Tang Gui held Yang Yuxuan's hand and walked slowly in the neighborhood. From time to time, she would talk about some interesting things in school. She observed that Yang Yuxuan would only show a faint smile. Her mood did not fluctuate too much. Fortunately, she was more stable. She also did not think that this kind of psychological problem could be solved in one go. She was very patient. After walking for a while, she held Yang Yuxuan's hand and sat down to rest. She asked her if she was thirsty and tired. Yang Yuxuan shook her head. She only looked at Tang Gui seriously and looked very gentle. "Good guogua." The thing Yang Yuxuan said the most was that guogua was so obedient. She did not seem to know what else to say. The people who were familiar with the neighborhood would greet Yang Yuxuan because Jiang Juxiang would sometimes take her down for a walk. Jiang Juxiang was more familiar with the old ladies in the neighborhood, so she knew them. Yang Yuxuan did not like to interact with these people. Her expression was uninterested and she was a little quiet. Tang Gui was afraid that these people would talk and say something that Yang Yuxuan would not like to hear, so she took the initiative to talk to them and make them laugh. These old ladies were actually a little gossipy. They did not mean any harm. They were just ordinary people. Tang Gui was such a cute little girl with a sweet mouth. Who would not like her? Soon, these old ladies' gazes shifted from Yang Yuxuan to Tang Gui. This was one of the reasons why Tanggua took Yang Yuxuan down for a walk. As long as she could get into these old ladies and control their topic, it would be a good thing for Yang Yuxuan. Slowly, as a child, she would expose the Tang family's matters. A man who liked someone of the same sex but couldn't bear the pressure of his family would never have a good life. Her bad life would start when she was around him. The old ladies chatted with Tanggua happily. Tanggua kept talking about how hard her mother's pregnancy was. She didn't neglect Yang Yuxuan at all. She took care of these old ladies, but she didn't forget Yang Yuxuan. Yang Yuxuan didn't interrupt, and she didn't think these old ladies were annoying. Anyone who heard someone praising their daughter wouldn't find the other party annoying. Tanggua leaned against Yang Yuxuan and held her hand. Yang Yuxuan felt very safe. She had never felt so safe before. How strange. She was only 5 years old. Tanggua and Yang Yuxuan stayed at the square downstairs for the whole afternoon. When the investigation was about to end, she took Yang Yuxuan back. At this time, she had already become familiar with all the old ladies in the neighborhood. They were very enthusiastic and invited her over for a meal. No one could compare to her popularity. The system watched silently from the side. Its host was really working hard. It had worked hard. The peak. Chapter 45-41. Tanggua planned to leave a good impression on the old ladies in the community in the first few days. When the time was right, she would explain to these old ladies about Tang Tailin and those bastards. As everyone knew, children's words carried no harm. When they returned home, Jiang Juxiang had already cooked the food. There were indeed all kinds of nutritious food on the table. However, excessive nutrition was not necessarily good for pregnant women. From Yang Yuxuan's reaction, Tanggua realized that she did not like to eat these. Therefore, she picked up a lighter vegetable dish for Yang Yuxuan. Seeing this, Jiang Juxiang picked up all kinds of meat for Yang Yuxuan. Yang Yuxuan seemed to be used to it. As long as the food landed in her bowl, she would try her best to eat it. Mom, the doctor said that you don't have to eat too much nutrition. You just have to ensure your health. If you eat too greasy, it's not good for your health. Tanggua spoke. She was afraid that Yang Yuxuan would not believe her. Mom seems to be going to the hospital tomorrow to check on the baby. Let's ask the doctor again. The meat that Yang Yuxuan was about to put into her mouth fell into her bowl. She stared at the mountain of meat in her bowl and picked up a piece of vegetable to eat. When did the doctor say this? Jiang Juxiang's voice was very loud. You little girl, don't talk nonsense if you don't know. When a woman is pregnant, she has to eat more so that my little grandson can be healthy. Yuxuan, don't listen to the child's nonsense. Eat more. After Jiang Juxiang finished speaking, she picked up some food for Yang Yuxuan and urged her to eat. She even said, I think this girl is greedy and jealous of my little grandson. Tanggua rolled her eyes in her heart. This old lady was really full of tricks. Unfortunately, Yang Yuxuan could not stand the torment. This was not the best time for a divorce. She could only wait for the other party to give birth to the child first. She had not created any momentum yet. She had to expose the faces of the family Tang mother and son. Grandma, if you don't believe me, you can ask the doctor tomorrow. As long as you have enough nutrition, you don't have to eat so much. This is not good for mom and the baby's health. Jiang Juxiang did not believe her and even glared at her, thinking that she was talking nonsense. Yuxuan, don't listen to the child's nonsense. Hurry up and eat. Mom worked hard to make these for you. Now that you're pregnant, you have to eat more. When your body is healthy and the child is healthy, you'll have enough milk in the future. Tanggua saw that Yang Yuxuan still ate the food in her bowl, so she didn't stop her. After getting the doctor's confirmation tomorrow, Jiang Juxiang should have nothing to say. Yang Yuxuan was already used to Jiang Juxiang's style. She no longer had any competitive spirit in her heart. Naturally, she would do whatever Jiang Juxiang said. She could not see where the future lay. Everywhere was dark. No one could help her lead the way, and no one could pull her up. Many people couldn't understand her psychological state and only felt that she was pretentious. After all, she had a clean and capable husband and a good mother-in-law who did all the housework. If she didn't show that she was satisfied, then she would be hypocritical and ungrateful. The Tang family was quite big, and Tang Gua had her own room. She had been monitoring Yang Yuxuan's movements with the system. She found that not only was she not sleeping, but she was also sitting under the window like during the day, looking at the city lights outside in a daze. At about 12:00 in the evening, Tang Tailin came back. It was impossible not to attract Yang Yuxuan's attention when he came home. Yang Yuxuan withdrew her gaze and stood up. She opened the door and saw Tang Tailin changing his shoes at the entrance. Tang Tailin was shocked by Yang Yuxuan, who was standing at the door in pajamas with a big belly. After seeing her clearly, he said faintly, "It's so late. Why aren't you sleeping? Go to bed early." Without waiting for Yang Yuxuan's response, Tang Tailin went into the bathroom. Yang Yuxuan looked at him and walked out of the bathroom to another room. Yang Yuxuan returned to the room again. When she turned to close the door, she found something at the door. She took a closer look and found that it was Tang Gua. Tang Gua hugged the small quilt and looked at Yang Yuxuan. "Mom, can I sleep with you?" Yang Yuxuan's cold face softened a little. She reached out and touched Tang Gua's head. "Are you afraid of being alone?" "Yes." Yang Yuxuan led Tang Gua into the room and comforted her. "Gua Gua, be good. Don't be afraid. Mom is here." The Peak. Chapter 45-42. Today was the day of Yang Yuxuan's prenatal checkup. No matter where Yang Yuxuan went, she would bring Tang Gua along. In fact, Jiang Juxiang was not very willing to bring Tang Gua to the hospital. She felt that children were troublesome. Yang Yuxuan was more stubborn in this aspect. She felt that her daughter was too young to be left alone at home. What if something happened? Therefore, every time she went for a prenatal checkup, she would bring Tang Gua along. She knew that Jiang Juxiang was not willing to look at her granddaughter, Tang Gua. She would always hold her hand and watch her. She never troubled Jiang Juxiang to do these things. Jiang Juxiang only cared about the gender of the child in her belly because the hospital had a clear rule that the gender of the child was not to be revealed. Jiang Juxiang had once wanted to instigate Yang Yuxuan to go to some places where the gender of the child could be checked. She even said that if it was a girl, she should just abort it early and prepare to have another child so as not to waste time. Yang Yuxuan's heart sank at that time. Indeed, in the eyes of this mother and son, she was just a birth tool. How could she abort the child in her belly just like that? Did she not feel pain? Did the child not feel pain? The doctor had actually vaguely told her the gender of the child. This was what she had begged the doctor. If the child was a boy, then she would agree to let Jiang Juxiang go to another place to check the gender. If it was a girl, she would do everything she could to not agree to the checkup. The child in her belly was a girl. She had known it long ago. At that time, Yang Yuxuan's illness was not serious. All she wanted was to give birth to the child and watch her grow up well. However, she did not know that she was sick and her illness was getting worse. In the end, she could not control herself and felt that her younger daughter would not be taken care of in this world. This was because Jiang Juxiang had once wanted to kill her younger daughter. Therefore, she took her younger daughter with her. This way, she could always take care of her and no one could bully her. During the checkup, Tang Guo stayed by Yang Yuxuan's side. Jiang Juxiang did not know much about this and felt that it was too expensive. If it were not for the sake of her precious grandchild, she would not let Yang Yuxuan come for a prenatal checkup. In her era, there was no need for a checkup when giving birth to a child. Didn't they give birth easily after 10 months of pregnancy? Tang Guo did not forget that Jiang Juxiang had tried her best to give Yang Yuxuan all kinds of oily food yesterday. After the doctor had checked and said that there was no problem, she asked about Yang Yuxuan's diet. The doctor's answer was, of course, the same as what she had said yesterday. She did not have to eat meat for every meal. Only eating meat was not good for pregnant mothers and babies. In fact, a normal diet would be fine. At most, she would supplement what she needed. It was best to have a combination of meat and vegetables. She couldn't eat everything as it would burden the pregnant woman. Grandma, you see, even the doctor said so. Mom can't eat too much of those things in the future. Tang Guo's words made Jiang Juxiang's expression turn ugly. She thought to herself that it was really pretentious for young people to get pregnant nowadays. In her era, she was satisfied with just a little meat for every meal. Unlike Yang Yuxuan, who was so pretentious and couldn't eat this and that. It was obviously good food, but he couldn't eat too much. The younger generation was getting worse and worse. However, because the doctor was in front of her, Jiang Juxiang still wanted to save face and could only agree. After leaving the hospital, Jiang Juxiang became more and more dissatisfied with Tang Guo. The way she looked at her was especially unfriendly. Peak. Chapter 45-43. This little girl was always going against her. Indeed, granddaughters were not as good as grandsons. Tang Guo couldn't be bothered with her. She carefully held Yang Yuxuan, who was in a daze. As long as Jiang Juxiang was by her side, Yang Yuxuan rarely smiled. In Yang Yuxuan's current state, she couldn't talk about the divorce. She had to endure for a few more months. When they passed by a mirror, Yang Yuxuan suddenly stopped moving. Tang Guo felt it and followed Yang Yuxuan's gaze to the mirror. She and Yang Yuxuan were reflected in the mirror. She found that Yang Yuxuan was reflecting herself in the glass. She was wearing loose clothes and had a big belly. There was no makeup on her face. She looked very haggard and even had dark circles under her eyes. Some spots could be seen on her face because of her pregnancy. Yang Yuxuan still had short hair because Jiang Juxiang said that it was easier to take care of her hair when she was pregnant and less likely to lose it. Yang Yuxuan didn't want to argue or refute. She was disgusted. Naturally, she did whatever Jiang Juxiang said. Now that she saw herself in the full-length mirror, she couldn't move. Was the person in front of him, who looked terrible, her? Yang Yuxuan's lips twitched slightly. She stared at the mirror and didn't look away. Soon, she found that Tang Guo was also in the mirror. Guo, does mommy look very ugly now? Yang Yuxuan asked. She touched her face. My face is chubby, and there's still a bit of fat on my face. My lips are colorless, and there are dark circles under my eyes. My body looks bloated, and there are wrinkles on my neck. Mom has become so ugly. Tang Guo quickly comforted her. Mom has always been very good-looking. Guo has learned to lie. Mom is not blind. I can see. Yang Yuxuan looked at the mirror over and over again and muttered, I look so ugly. No wonder no one likes me. I like Mom very much. No matter what, I like Mom very much. Tang Guo held Yang Yuxuan's hand. Mom, I can make you look good. Mom hasn't bought new clothes for a long time. You will look good in new clothes. Yang Yuxuan was stunned. Is that so? Of course. Mom, let's go to the mall. Let's buy some new clothes and then go to the makeup store. I heard from the grannies downstairs yesterday that there are makeup products for pregnant women. They are all made from natural plants and won't affect pregnant women. Yang Yuxuan was dragged to the shopping mall by Tang Guo. There was a large shopping mall not far from the hospital. Jiang Juxiang saw where the two of them were heading and quickly ran over. Yu Xian, where are you going? Why don't you go home? Jiang Juxiang was very dissatisfied. You're pregnant, so don't wander around. What if something happens? Yang Yuxuan wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Tang Guo. Grandma, you go back first. Mom and I are going to walk around. Mom just said that she would buy me a beautiful dress. Tang Guo, you're getting more and more immature. Your mother is pregnant, but you still want to drag her to the mall to buy a dress. You're so young, but you don't care about your mother at all. Jiang Juxiang said a lot, and the people around them were attracted by the commotion. At first, they also thought that it was Tang Guo who was immature and wanted to drag her pregnant mother to buy things. So they all shook their heads. They felt that children nowadays were very delicate, but they had no intention of meddling in other people's business. Yang Yuxuan looked around blankly. More and more people were looking at her. Peek. Chapter 45-44. Jiang Juxiang scolded her daughter desperately. She subconsciously pulled Tang Guo behind her and said coldly, Mom, you go back first. I want to shop. Jiang Juxiang's voice suddenly stopped. She looked at Tang Guo with hatred in her eyes. You're the one who spoils this brat. She's like this because of you. Don't complain if you can't control her in the future. She is so willful when she is young. It will be difficult to control her when she grows up. Can't she wear the clothes at home? There are children everywhere. Why are you dressed up so beautifully? Jiang Juxiang cursed as she walked away. She turned around and warned, be careful. The onlookers thought that Jiang Juxiang was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Even if she was not satisfied, she was still concerned about Yang Yuxuan's safety. Only Tang Guo and Yang Yuxuan knew that Jiang Juxiang was telling Yang Yuxuan to be careful of the baby in her belly. She didn't want anything to happen to her baby and hurt Jiang Juxiang's precious grandchild. Yang Yuxuan heard someone saying that this mother-in-law was so nice. She didn't want to hear it at all. She held Tang Guo's hand and hurried into the mall. Tang Guo took Yang Yuxuan to the mother and baby store. The quality of the clothes here was guaranteed. The clothes worn by pregnant women were not only comfortable, but also did not have any harmful substances. She walked around in circles and only picked some good-looking ones for Yang Yuxuan to compare. She had good taste. She only needed to compare a little to know whether this dress was suitable for Yang Yuxuan. The color she chose was a little bright. It could make people look much younger when they wore it. Yang Yuxuan changed into the dress Tang Guo chose for her. She looked at herself in the mirror and seemed to be a little more pleasing to the eye. The shop assistants around her were all praising her. She looked very good in this dress. The corners of her mouth finally curved a little. Mom, it looks good. Yang Yuxuan bought the 3 dresses that Tang Guo chose for her. Tang Guo took her to buy cosmetics. She specially found the cosmetics brands that the system collected for her. There were cosmetics for pregnant women here. As for makeup, Yang Yuxuan didn't even dare to think about it after she was pregnant. Many people had a deeper thought that pregnant women couldn't wear makeup. It would cause harm to the baby. In fact, society was progressing and products that pregnant women could use had long been introduced, especially edible lipstick, which had been introduced a long time ago. Mom, look, those aunties are also pregnant. They are also putting on makeup. Tang Guo brought Yang Yuxuan here because the system had already explored the way for her. When she saw that there were a few pregnant women here, she relaxed a lot. She hoped that Yang Yuxuan could communicate with these pregnant women. Perhaps it would make her feel better. When Yang Yuxuan saw that the receptionist was helping the pregnant women with their makeup, her heart suddenly calmed down. "Auntie, do you come here often?" Tang Guo leads Yang Yuxuan to greet people. Her childish voice and lovely appearance instantly attract several pregnant women here, and they all answer her kindly. From their conversation, Yang Yuxuan could tell that they came several times a week. Because she was pregnant, putting on makeup was a rather tedious thing. Sometimes, when she didn't have enough energy and wanted to look beautiful, she would come to this place. This brand focuses on cosmetics and skincare products for pregnant women. As long as you buy something from them, you'll get a free supply of cosmetics. If you can buy a full set, you can come here and enjoy it every day. Sister, do you see those small cabinets? They store the cosmetics that pregnant mothers like us buy. The young ladies at the counter have good makeup skills. Of course, we will put on makeup here after we buy it. It's pretty good. Chapter 45-45. Yang Yuxuan followed the pregnant women's gaze and looked at the small cabinets. She knew that this place was different. It took up a lot of space and was very different from other cosmetics counters. It turned out that this was their main business. So I have to put on makeup when I'm pregnant. Yang Yuxuan didn't know about this. Ever since she got married, she seemed to be out of touch with the world. After she got married, she had her own job. It was Jiang Juxiang who asked her to help out at the restaurant. It was just to collect the bills and make some records. She didn't ask her to do any heavy work. After all, she was the lady boss of the restaurant. Jiang Juxiang wouldn't ask her to wash the dishes. The work she did was relatively easy. Jiang Juxiang arranged this so that Yang Yuxuan and Tang Tailin could interact more. Maybe Tang Tailin would fall in love with Yang Yuxuan and stop liking men. This created an illusion for Yang Yuxuan that Jiang Juxiang was very satisfied with this daughter-in-law. Only she knew the temperature of the water she drank. After some time, Yang Yuxuan also noticed some signs. The business of the restaurant was very good. Even if Yang Yuxuan just sat there and watched, she still had to wait for the restaurant to close before she could go home. Speaking of which, ever since she got married, she didn't have her own circle of friends. She still remembered what Jiang Juxiang said to her at that time. Tang Tailin couldn't handle it alone. She also studied accounting. If she went to watch the restaurant, she would be on the same side and wouldn't be easily fooled. Yang Yuxuan didn't feel any conflict at that time. She tried her best to take care of the restaurant. "Madam, what kind of products do you like? You can take a look at these. They are all available. If you have your own ideas, you can tell us in advance. Customer satisfaction is the goal of our service." The receptionist pushed a chair over for Yang Yuxuan to sit down. Yang Yuxuan looked at herself in the mirror again. This time, her reflection was clearer. Looking at her changed face, she couldn't accept it. "It must be because you didn't take good care of yourself. This can't be. Madam, did the products and cosmetics hurt the baby in your stomach?" The receptionist smiled warmly. "Our company's main brand is for pregnant women. We have our counters in every city in the country. We are trusted by millions of pregnant women. Madam, don't worry. Our products are all made from pure natural plants. They won't hurt the baby. They can make you look beautiful during your pregnancy. Who said that pregnant women have to be sloppy? If I can be beautiful, why not?" The receptionist placed all the products on a small cart and pushed it in front of Yang Yuxuan. Madam, you can take a look at our products first. The receptionist held Yang Yuxuan's hand and squeezed out some of the product. She smeared it on Yang Yuxuan's hand and asked her to smell it. The smell was very comfortable, fresh, and light. There wasn't a bit of pungent smell. It probably hadn't been added with any essence. Mom, look, those aunties are using it. You should try it too. Tang Guo really wanted to thank this company that specialized in maternity products. She wished that the boss of this company would have a prosperous business and become the richest man in the world soon. The system had already helped her check. This company's product selection was very strict. If there was even the slightest mistake, all the products would be destroyed. It could be seen that he was serious. The maternity products that the Xia Group had promoted were less than 10 years old. It was said that this series of products was created by the founder, Xia Yi, for his wife who was about to become pregnant. Vertex. Chapter 45-46. Under Tang Guo's request, Yang Yuxuan agreed to use the products. The receptionist first cleaned her skin, massaged it, moisturized it, and then did the skincare and makeup. After a series of services, she was not afraid that she would not want to use the products. 2 hours later, Yang Yuxuan looked at her disciple in the mirror again. Even though her face was much rounder, with the help of the receptionist, she looked brand new and much better. The makeup was very light and natural. She liked it very much. Madam, if you buy the full set of products now, you can come here for skincare and makeup during your pregnancy. Madam's necklines are a little deep. We have a series of creams here. With our massage techniques, it can effectively improve your necklines. The receptionist smiled and said gently. Yang Yuxuan hesitated for a moment. She really wanted to say that there was no need. She could just pay for today's meal. But Tang Guo pulled Yang Yuxuan. Mom, buy it. This one looks good. This sister will make Mom more and more beautiful. I am willing to donate all my pocket money. Tang Guo opened her small school bag. She had prepared this a long time ago. Since she worked so hard, Yang Yuxuan should be moved. A woman who treated herself well must learn how to spend money. Not only did she have to spend money, but she also had to give half of it to Tang Tailin when they divorced. She did not care about Tang Tailin's money. With her around, Yang Yuxuan would not lack money. But not caring did not mean that she would not share it. Tang Guo took out a lot of money from her small bag. The receptionist and the surrounding pregnant women laughed. They quickly praised Yang Yuxuan for giving birth to such a cute daughter. 2 pregnant women even touched their tummies. They waved at Tang Guo and asked her to touch their tummies. My tummy has been touched by a cute girl before. I can definitely give birth to such a cute daughter. The receptionist was happy to be called sister. She was young and only 20 years old. Since the girl trusted her so much, she had to help her mother. Tang Guo took out the money from her bag. There seemed to be quite a lot. After all, her family was well-to-do. Jiang Juxiang did not like her, but she would not confiscate her pocket money. Yang Yuxuan's mental state had always been strange, so she rarely paid attention to these things. Therefore, she had saved up a lot of pocket money over the years. Counting carefully, it was tens of thousands. Yang Yuxuan was wondering why her guoguo's bag was so bulging. It turned out that it was filled with money. Pretty sister, how much does it cost to buy a full set? Do I have enough here? The receptionist patted Tang Guo's head and nodded. The full set here costs 88,000 yuan. Big sister will help you count. Little sister is so cute. Although she didn't have a boyfriend yet, she also dreamed of having such a cute daughter. Although Tang Guo's small school bag was full, the money in it was still not enough for 88,000 yuan. Yang Yuxuan took out her card and said, "Miss, I'll pay by card. Please help my daughter put the pocket money into her school bag." "Yes, madam." The receptionist was so happy that she hugged Tanggua and kissed her. "You're an angel." Tanggua, system, ha 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 ha, it's as if I'm looking at the host who has nothing to live for. Tanggua rubbed her face. Seeing that Yang Yuxuan was finally willing to spend money, her efforts were not in vain. She was almost drooling. After buying a full set, Yang Yuxuan only took the skincare products for the night. Tanggua said that she would take Yang Yuxuan out for a walk every morning. Yang Yuxuan didn't refute her. Peak. Chapter 45-47. After entering the neighborhood, Yang Yuxuan stopped in her tracks. She thought about how the aunties in the neighborhood would talk about her if they saw her like this. She was afraid to leave. At this moment, two familiar people came in front of her. Yang Yuxuan saw that it was Auntie Wu and her daughter. Coincidentally, Auntie Wu's daughter was also pregnant and had come back to her parents' house to take care of the baby. Yang Yuxuan's change immediately attracted the attention of Auntie Wu's daughter, Li Yun. She looked at Yang Yuxuan in surprise. Auntie Wu's attention was also attracted. She stared at Yang Yuxuan and said in surprise, "Yuxuan, why are you wearing makeup? You're pregnant. Is it okay to use makeup? Will it hurt the baby? My Yunyun wants to touch makeup, but I don't dare to let her touch it. I have to watch over it every day." Li Yun pursed her lips. "Mom, I just drew my eyebrows. I didn't put on lipstick or foundation. What can it do? Don't you know that eyebrows are the soul?" "Grandma Wu, Auntie Li, my mom is using the Xia family's maternity makeup line. It won't affect the baby." While Yang Yuxuan was in a daze, Tanggua, Auntie Wu, and Li Yun started chatting. She even showed them a small booklet. "You can go and take a look. Tell them my name and there's a small gift. The pretty sister over there knows how to do makeup. The makeup is harmless. It will definitely make Auntie Li and my mom look as beautiful as they do." Tanggua gave them a small booklet and a small card. She even told them to tell them her name and passed the small card to the receptionist. Li Yun was very tempted. "Mom, let's go and take a look. It's harmless makeup. We must go and take a look." Auntie Wu couldn't persuade her. She doted on her daughter. "Then let's go and take a look. Mom, let's go." Tanggua held Yang Yuxuan's hand. Yang Yuxuan was still in a daze. When she came back to her senses, she asked Tanggua why she had to tell them her name. "I made an appointment with the pretty sister to introduce customers to her. She will give me a commission and I can also give you a small gift." Yang Yuxuan, how did Guogua think of this? "It's like this on TV." Tanggua didn't panic at all. "I learned it." Yang Yuxuan finally paid some attention to one thing, and that was whether her daughter was too smart. She was only 5 years old. Walking into the neighborhood, Yang Yuxuan met some familiar faces along the way. Thanks to Jiang Zhuxiang, Yang Yuxuan got to know many aunties and uncles in the neighborhood. Tanggua didn't hesitate to explain the Xia family's maternity products to everyone. After listening to her explanation, many of the pregnant women present were tempted. After all, Auntie Wu and Auntie Wu, Auntie Wu and Li were Li. Auntie Wu could not hide things. She immediately told her about the Xia family's maternity products. Li Yun also bragged. She was very satisfied with today's makeup and had already bought a full set. She could go and enjoy it every day. Then, the pregnant women in the neighborhood couldn't sit still anymore. They all wanted to go and take a look. Of them, that. Of course, it. When they reached home, Yang Yuxuan was sent into the house by Tang Guo. Jiang Juxiang was busy cooking dinner. During dinner, Jiang Juxiang suddenly realized that Yang Yuxuan had put on makeup. Her face darkened. She put down her bowl and chopsticks. Yuxuan, why did you put on makeup? Jiang Juxiang suddenly raised her voice. Chapter 45-48. Hurry up and wash it. Jiang Juxiang said with an ugly expression. Don't you know that pregnancy makeup is bad for the baby? If anything happens to the baby, you'll cry. If you're pregnant, take good care of the baby. Who are you dressing up for? Jiang Juxiang saw that Yang Yuxuan wasn't moving, so she immediately stood up and wanted to pull Yang Yuxuan's arm, but Tang Guo stopped her. Jiang Juxiang said impatiently, "Stupid girl, go aside. Your mother is pregnant and still wearing makeup. Don't you know that it's bad for the baby? She's already an adult, and it's not her first time pregnant." Tang Guo didn't let her go, so Jiang Juxiang reached out to push her away. At this moment, Yang Yuxuan hugged Tang Guo and said, "This makeup is for pregnant women. It won't affect the baby." "What do you mean it won't affect you?" "That's just an advertisement to trick you into spending money." "What do you mean it's harmless? How can you believe such an advertisement?" Jiang Juxiang's voice was sharp. "Hurry up and wash it. There are many pregnant aunties downstairs who use the Xia family's maternity products. If you don't believe me, you can ask them," Tang Guo interrupted. This old lady was really disgusting. Yang Yuxuan had a family. The Yang family wasn't a bad family, but their parents were more traditional. If she were to go back to her parents' home now, not only would Yang Yuxuan not be taken good care of, but it would also add more psychological pressure. In other words, as long as Yang Yuxuan wasn't really in trouble, no one would support her. Jiang Juxiang still felt that makeup was harmful, so she kept nagging at Yang Yuxuan, which ruined Yang Yuxuan's good mood. She was very satisfied with today's makeup and didn't want to do as Jiang Juxiang said. "Yuxuan, are you listening?" Jiang Juxiang couldn't help but raise her voice. "It's almost night time. Who are you dressing up for? After you give birth, I won't care what you wear." "Mom, there's nothing wrong with this makeup." Yang Yuxuan lowered her head and asked Tang Guo in a low voice, "Is Guo full?" "Yes." "Then go back to the room with Mom. Mom wants to hear Guo read a story and sing." "Okay." Tang Guo couldn't wait for Yang Yuxuan to reject Jiang Juxiang a few more times. She quickly pulled Yang Yuxuan back to her room. Jiang Juxiang was furious, but there was nothing she could do. After all, she didn't dare to make a move. As for telling Tang Tailin about this, it was completely useless. That son of hers was probably still thinking about that man from back then. He couldn't forget him and wouldn't get too close to Yang Yuxuan at all. Yang Yuxuan was also useless. After so many years, she still couldn't make her son change his mind. Her little grandson was still the best. When she had a little grandson, she couldn't be bothered to care about what these young people thought. In the room, the sound of Tang Guo reading a story could be heard. Jiang Juxiang was a little annoyed and quickly ate to divert her attention. She could forget about it today, but she had to throw away all of Yang Yuxuan's cosmetics tomorrow. She was already pregnant, yet she was still putting on makeup. She was simply insensible. If something happened to the child in the end, what would she do? Tang Guo read the story and saw that Yang Yuxuan kept looking out of the window. The sky gradually darkened, and the unique lights of the city lit up outside. Yang Yuxuan's eyes seemed to be covered by a layer of white fog, becoming dull. "Guo, Mom seems to be sick." Yang Yuxuan touched Tang Guo's head. She lowered her head and looked at Tang Guo. "But Mom can't take medicine." If she takes medicine, it will hurt the baby in her stomach. The Peak. Chapter 45-49. Have you seen a doctor? Tang Gua asked. Yang Yuxuan was willing to talk about her psychological situation, which meant that she had complete trust in Tang Gua. She would only speak her mind to someone she trusted and felt safe with. Even the slowest person would know that something was wrong with their situation. Yang Yuxuan was actually unconscious. She was sick now. But she didn't tell anyone, because no one would believe that she was sick. She had once told Jiang Juxiang that she felt terrible and uncomfortable, but Jiang Juxiang only said that this was how pregnancy was. It was not good here and there. She only told her to eat more and take care of the baby in peace. The family would not make her do anything. Perhaps from this point, Jiang Juxiang was really a good mother-in-law. At least she wouldn't ask Yang Yuxuan to do anything. But Yang Yuxuan's family background wasn't bad. Even if she didn't get married, she didn't need to do anything at home. Instead, because of Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin's selfishness, they tricked her into marriage. She was just a victim. In Tang Gua's memory, Yang Yuxuan also called her family and said that she and Tang Tailin might not be able to live together anymore. This was a way of asking for help. But her family felt that Jiang Juxiang was a good mother-in-law and Tang Tailin was a good man. At least they hadn't heard that Tang Tailin's private life was dirty. Until now, there weren't any scandals. They all persuaded Yang Yuxuan not to be pretentious. With such a good husband and mother-in-law, it was something that many women couldn't even ask for. Everyone felt that she was pretentious and didn't know how lucky she was. She wanted to say something, but they interrupted her and she couldn't continue. Later, Yang Yuxuan actually told her family that Tang Tailin used to like men. The Yang family didn't care about this at all. They felt that Tang Tailin had nothing to do with that man now, which meant that he had changed. Since he had changed, he had to live a good life. They didn't think it was a big deal. Yang Yuxuan told them that Tang Tailin didn't like her. They were very unfamiliar with each other and didn't seem like husband and wife. Her family said that after getting married, the passion from the past would naturally disappear. They were an old married couple, so their feelings would definitely fade. Tang Tailin was already very good. At least he was clean and didn't go out to mess around, but they still scolded her for not being satisfied. No one realized that Tang Tailin was cheating her into marrying him. Yang Yuxuan couldn't explain it clearly. Those people didn't understand her pain, so she naturally wouldn't say it out loud. The teacher said that if you're sick, you should go see a doctor. Tang Gua took Yang Yuxuan's hand. She wanted to take Yang Yuxuan to see a doctor, but it needed to be done step by step. Now that Yang Yuxuan took the initiative to mention her illness, she certainly had to take it seriously. Mom, let's go to see a doctor tomorrow, okay? Yang Yuxuan looked at Tang Gua in confusion. Gua, do you think I need to see a doctor? Your grandmother, your grandparents, and your uncle all think that your mother isn't sick. Yang Yuxuan said. Because everyone said that she was not sick, she sometimes wondered if she was not sick, but just a little emotional. Being sick is her own business. Since Mom said that she was sick, she definitely had to see a doctor first. Was Grandma a doctor? Are Grandpa and Grandma doctors? Is Uncle a doctor? Tang Gua's question stunned Yang Yuxuan. Tang Gua continued, only a doctor can determine if Mom is sick or not. Vertex. Chapter 45-50. Mom, where are you feeling unwell? Tang Gua asked seriously. Her little face looked very serious and serious. The stone in Yang Yuxuan's heart seemed to loosen a little. In the past 2 days, she had felt a sense of importance she had never felt before. It was as if a firefly suddenly flew in when she was in the dark. Although the firefly's light was very small, it still made her world different. Facing Tang Guo's concerned expression, Yang Yuxuan touched her head lovingly. "Mom, is your stomach hurting?" Tang Guo decided to take the initiative to ask. She should go to the psychology department tomorrow. She asked everywhere. Yang Yuxuan shook her head. "Mom's stomach doesn't hurt." "Is it the head?" "No." "Is it the leg? Or the hand?" "Neither." "Then where is Mom feeling unwell?" Tang Guo started to reach out and touch Yang Yuxuan's body. When she pointed to Yang Yuxuan's heart, she asked, "Here? Is it here?" Yang Yuxuan paused. After a minute, she nodded. "Then let's go to the hospital tomorrow for a checkup, okay? If a small illness is not treated, it will become a serious illness." Yang Yuxuan agreed. At night, Tang Guo and Yang Yuxuan slept in the same room as usual. As long as Yang Yuxuan was persistent, Jiang Juxiang could not do anything to her. The next day, after breakfast, Tang Guo took Yang Yuxuan for a walk. In fact, she took her to the mall to do her skincare and makeup. As soon as she walked out of the neighborhood, she heard the system's voice. That old lady went to Yang Yuxuan's room. She found Yang Yuxuan's old cosmetics and threw them all away. "Let's not argue with her first. My mom can't take it now. If she agitates her too much, it will worsen her condition. She's pregnant now and can't take medicine to control it. In such an environment, she may not be able to adjust her mood." The system was worried. It can't be helped. The Yang family doesn't care about things. Jiang Juxiang and Tang Tailin are too famous. They think that these two are very good, but they think that my mom is too pretentious. Many people don't pay attention to the fact that pregnant women are prone to depression. They even think that they are pretentious. When my mother gives birth, my sister will be fed milk powder. She can also receive medication. As for Jiang Juxiang, seeing that it was a girl, she probably wouldn't like it very much. When the time comes, I will think of a way to get my mother to divorce. As long as we leave this place, she will recover. Jiang Juxiang threw away those cosmetics. She probably hasn't used them for a long time. Just throw them away and buy new ones in the future. Yang Yuxuan was first dragged by Tang Guo to do her skincare and makeup. She originally looked pale and haggard, but with the help of the receptionist's superb makeup skills, she looked radiant in the mirror. After a while, Yang Yuxuan saw a few familiar faces walking in. They were the daughters and daughters-in-law of the aunties in the neighborhood. Seeing Yang Yuxuan here, they hurriedly greeted her. Tang Guo knew that Yang Yuxuan didn't like to talk to these people, so she left the social interaction to her. "Grandma Wu, do you think my mother looks good today?" "Auntie Wu, it's nice, it's nice. This place is really not bad. My Yunyun likes this place very much too." The Xia Group is a big corporation, and they are very strict with their maternity products. We don't need to worry about using the Xia Group's products. Look, the other people in the neighborhood are all here. Sigh. Tang Guo sighed, and it instantly attracted everyone's attention. Everyone asked her what was wrong. The peak. Chapter 45-51. Tang Guo told them about last night's dinner without any exaggeration. Everyone shook their heads. She's so old-fashioned. Technology is improving now. The lipstick now can be eaten. It's not like the ones with all kinds of harmful pigments in the past, Li Yun said. Don't worry about using the Xia Corporation's products. I have to post it on my WeChat moments to let my sisters know about this good stuff. Why do so few people know about such a good thing? Tang Gua didn't expect everyone to hate Jiang Juxiang. She just wanted to slowly leak Jiang Juxiang's behavior to the people outside. When these people returned to the neighborhood, they would definitely bump into Jiang Juxiang later. With Jiang Juxiang's personality, she would definitely say that makeup was not good. However, the old ladies here had all accepted the Xia Corporation's maternity products. Jiang Juxiang was an old-fashioned person. She was very insistent on herself. If these people said it was good, she would not say it was good. She would even think that these people did not know what was good for them. If they used this kind of thing, there would be problems sooner or later. Tang Gua pulled Yang Yuxuan and greeted everyone. Li Yun asked, "Are you guys going home?" "No, I'm taking my mother to the hospital," Tang Gua said truthfully. "My mother is sick." What did a child know? Her mother was sick and wanted to go to the hospital. When everyone asked, she just said it. Li Yun was a little worried. What's wrong with Yuxuan? She could tell that Yang Yuxuan had been much quieter ever since she got pregnant. I don't know. We still have to wait for the doctor's examination. Mom said that she doesn't feel well here. Tang Gua held her chest and showed everyone. Then let's go and take a look. Your health is the most important thing. Everyone was discussing. Li Yun looked at Yang Yuxuan thoughtfully. Yang Yuxuan didn't look like she was in pain. In addition, the other party was silent and expressionless. She had a guess in her heart. I hope she's fine. She can't take medicine when she's pregnant. If it's serious, she might not even be able to keep the child. The aunties had already started to discuss. At this moment, Tang Gua and Yang Yuxuan had already gone to the hospital opposite. She didn't pay attention to what the people behind them were discussing. Mom, after Yuxuan got pregnant, her husband didn't accompany her to the hospital, right? Li Yun asked. Didn't they say that their family wants to have another son? Her husband doesn't seem to value it that much. Auntie Wu said matter-of-factly, he's the boss of a restaurant. He's very busy and doesn't have time. He's busy earning money for the baby's milk powder. What are you busy with? Didn't he have employees in his restaurant? No matter how busy he was, how could he not have the time to accompany his wife for her prenatal checkup? Besides, I went to his restaurant for dinner during a company gathering some time ago. He didn't have to do everything himself. Accompanying my wife for a prenatal checkup is only half a day. What's the big deal? Don't we have Jiang Juxiang? Jiang Juxiang will be fine too. Li Yun shook her head. That's not the same. Anyway, I don't think their relationship is very good. I've never seen the two of them as intimate as husband and wife. Speaking of which, they've been married for so many years. Have you ever seen the two of them holding hands before? Aren't the two of them always far apart? Actually, I've been wanting to say this for a long time. Auntie Wu patted Li Yun. You can't say these words in front of Jiang Juxiang. She will definitely scold you. Jiang Juxiang isn't here, is she? Li Yun whispered. Actually, I think there's something wrong with Yang Yuxuan. Vertex. Chapter 45-52. What's wrong? The others were also curious. Li Yun continued, in the past, when she was pregnant with her first child, I wasn't married yet, but I often saw her go downstairs for a walk. At that time, she wasn't like this. Instead, she was smiling every day with a book in her hand, happily reading to the child in her stomach. No, I'm going to buy a book later and read to my baby. Who knows, she might give birth to a daughter like Guogua. Look at Yang Yuxuan now. She looks very depressed. Something's obviously wrong. Li Yun's voice lowered another notch. I suspect that she has depression. While everyone was confused, Li Yun decided to make a big move. Don't think that this is a minor illness. The last time I went to the hospital, I heard people talking about how some pregnant women jumped off a building because of depression. Some jumped off a building while pregnant with a child, and some jumped off a building while carrying the child after giving birth. Li Yun's words shocked the surrounding aunties, but the pregnant women's faces were serious. It was obvious that they knew about this. Thus, Li Yun explained to the group of aunties. She was more cultured, so she used a more scientific method to explain to these people. Auntie Wu was the most nervous. Yun Yun, are you okay? Do you want Xiao He to come over and accompany you? He's always on business trips and neglects you. What if you get sick? Mom, don't worry. I'm fine. Don't call him. He's very obedient. If he's not obedient, get lost and kneel on the keyboard. Besides, Tang Gua had already arrived at the hospital. She didn't give Yang Yuxuan time to regret. She asked the nurse in the hospital about Yang Yuxuan's situation. The nurse asked Yang Yuxuan a few questions. Based on her performance, she finally advised her to worry about science. Yang Yuxuan was actually a little timid. She was most afraid that someone would say that she was pretentious. She wasn't sick. However, she did feel very uncomfortable. After being denied, she would feel even more depressed. However, Tang Gua kept holding her hand and coaxing her to see a doctor. Tang Gua came prepared. The day before, she asked the system to help check the psychiatrist in this hospital. Coincidentally, an expert would be there today. The expert might be there one day a week, but the current situation was that many people still didn't pay enough attention to psychology. Soon, they saw the psychiatrist. She looked very young, perhaps in her early 30s, and was very beautiful. Because she was young, even if someone came to register, they were not willing to register with her. However, what attracted Tang Gua the most was that there was a little boy sitting next to the young psychiatrist. He seemed to be a little older than her. After she looked at the little boy, she couldn't take her eyes off him. The little boy seemed to have noticed her gaze as well. He raised his head and glanced at her indifferently. The way the two children looked at each other made Yang Yuxuan smile a little more. Xiao Fan, take your little sister out for a seat first. The young female doctor patted the little boy's head. Hurry up. The little boy called Xiao Fan closed the book in his hand and walked up to Tang Gua. He glanced at her and said, let's go. Lil Fan, you can tone it down. You'll scare the little girls, and there won't be any little girls to play with you in the future. Xia Fan snorted. He was just about to say that he didn't want to play with girls. Girls were the most troublesome. However, when he saw Tang Gua's beautiful eyes, he pursed his lips and tried hard to suppress the words that he wanted to say. Then, he said, okay. His tone was indeed much gentler than before. The peak. Chapter 45-53. Your daughter is very cute, Yu said with a smile as she watched Tang Gua walk out and close the door. Yang Yuxuan froze for a moment and nodded. Guagua is very sensible. Her name is very good. She sounds like a sweet and cute little girl. Yu was not stingy with her praise, but soon shook her head. She's not like my boy. He always looks like an old man, as if his family owes him $5 million. Your daughter is really cute. My boy has never been willing to play with girls since he was young. Yang Yuxuan relaxed a lot. She had resisted coming in because she was afraid that the doctor would ask her about her current situation with a very serious expression. She couldn't express her inner thoughts in front of her own family, let alone a stranger she had just met, even if she knew that the other party was a doctor. Yu Yu's topic started from Tang Gua because she found that Yang Yuxuan's eyes only changed when she looked at Tang Gua. When she praised Tang Gua for being cute, Yang Yuxuan's attention was attracted by her, and her expression softened. Of course, that little girl was indeed very cute. She talked about Tang Gua and her own child. It didn't seem like a conversation between a doctor and a patient, but more like a conversation between two friends who both had children. Although Yang Yuxuan basically didn't take the initiative to talk about her own situation, Yu wasn't in a hurry and patiently guided her. She wasn't in a hurry to know about Yang Yuxuan's current situation because she found that Yang Yuxuan didn't trust her very much now, even though she praised her daughter. She secretly guessed that it was related to Yang Yuxuan's experience. Therefore, Yu didn't intend to get anything out of Yang Yuxuan this time. Yang Yuxuan had been very vigilant. She didn't expect that after an hour, Yu didn't ask her any sensitive questions at all. Instead, Yu talked with her about parenting, which made her recall the happy days of the past few days. Let's exchange contact information. I'll come to the hospital once a week, Yu said. Phone number or social media account is fine. If you have anything to say, you can send me a message or call me. Yu's words could be considered as accepting this patient. In fact, very few patients who came to this hospital would call her because she looked too young and wasn't very trustworthy. They felt that she wasn't good enough. Although Yang Yuxuan looked fine, in fact, in her opinion, Yang Yuxuan's condition was very serious. The patients she had interacted with before would take the initiative to talk to her about their own matters after chatting for a while. Yang Yuxuan did not. She was avoiding the topic. A patient who refused to communicate with her meant that the other party did not trust her. The two of them exchanged contact information, and Yu casually said, "If you have time, I'd like to ask you for advice on how to raise a child." How did I raise such a bastard? Yang Yuxuan was stunned for a moment. Then, she recalled how she had raised her child. She frowned at the thought of it. In fact, her guoguo was very sensible. She never cried or made a fuss, so there was no need for her to worry. Therefore, she really didn't have much experience. Her marriage had been terrible for the past few years, and she had even neglected her daughter. She clearly did not want to be like this, but she could not control herself. She also wanted to give her daughter better, but she could not do it. There was no other way. It was as if she did not have the strength to do anything, and her memory had also become very bad. Sometimes, when she wanted to do something, she would forget it when she turned around. By the time she reacted, she had actually sat on the chair for a few hours. Vertex. Chapter 45-54. When she went to the restaurant to work, she was like a machine. She only did those things out of habit and instinct. There were many guests in the restaurant every day. The surroundings were noisy, but it never reached her. Tang Tai-lin almost didn't communicate with her. They probably didn't talk more than 10 sentences in a day. She wasn't the type to cause trouble, and Tang Tai-lin didn't seem to have done anything wrong. Just like how she once told her parents that she might not be suitable for Tang Tai-lin. They hurriedly persuaded her not to think too much. Where could she find such a good man? She had nothing to say. No one could understand the pain in her heart. It wasn't until she got pregnant again that she discovered another shocking secret. Tang Tai-lin didn't like her. He still thought about men. The reason why he married her was that Jiang Juxiang forced him to. He needed a woman to carry on the family line for their family. She thought that this time, her family would definitely stand by her side. She told her family about this matter, and it was different from what she had expected. Her family still stood on Tang Tai-lin's side, saying that it was all in the past. Since Tang Tai-lin was willing to get married and didn't go out to fool around, he must be living a good life. She wanted to say that they were cheating her into marriage and to have a child. But her family said that they couldn't divorce over such a small matter. Wasn't Zhang Juxiang a good mother-in-law? Wasn't Tang Tailin a good man? Liking men before was a very small matter. It wasn't an affair. It wasn't a big deal. They already had a child. Besides, the child would be her child. No one spoke up for her. They all felt that she had a good husband and advised her not to do it. Your daughter is so smart. This is the first time I've seen my son so serious. Yu Yu's voice pulled Yang Yuxuan back to reality. It turned out that she had already walked out of the room and was outside. Tang Guo was holding Xia Fan's book. What made her speechless was that it was actually an arithmetic book. Xia Fan was very proud, so she took advantage of this time to teach him how to be a human. As for bullying children, that didn't exist. She was also a child now. System, do you want to touch your conscience and say this? How is it? Tang Guo patted Xia Fan's head. These calculations are too simple. Xia Fanjin pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He always felt that the other children of his age were especially stupid. He disdained to play with them. Because they were very stupid. When he could do three-digit addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, those children were either playing with dolls, playing with toy cars, or blowing bubble gum. Currently, he had no problem doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division for three-digit and four-digit numbers. Currently, he was learning how to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division for five-digit numbers. Once he was familiar with it, he would begin to challenge six-digit numbers. In school, he would always receive shocked and incredulous looks from the children around him, which made him feel very bored. Of course, he didn't mean to show off. He challenged this because he liked it, but adults always liked to brag about their abilities. You win. Xia Fan said, I haven't started to challenge the six-digit multiplier yet. It might take another year. From today onwards, you are qualified to be my friend. Tang Guo almost laughed out loud. What did he mean by qualified to be his friend? I'm better than you. Whether we become friends or not, shouldn't it be up to me? You, a loser, have the right to say that. Xia Fan's face turned red. He pursed his lips and finally squeezed out a sentence, then say it. The peak. Chapter 45-55. Tang Guo looked at the awkward, proud, and stubborn little boy in front of her, and her mood became very good. Actually, you're quite smart, just a little bit worse than me. Tang Guo said. She found that Xia Fan was very nervous. At least, other than me, I haven't seen any smarter children of my age, so I'll allow you to be my friend. Xia Fan felt a little awkward, but his eyes lit up honestly. Tang Guo was smart enough to be able to calculate 6 digits. He hadn't even started yet, but she didn't even need to think about it. She could tell the answer just by looking at the numbers. She was very powerful. Did you also sign up your child for a mental arithmetic class? Yu Yu was very surprised. She did sign up her son for a mental arithmetic class, but the premise was that Xia Fan liked it very much and was very talented in this area, so she supported it. Children who didn't have any talent in this area, no matter how hard they worked, were only a little better than ordinary people. Only talented children would be able to challenge more and more single-digit mental arithmetic. Yu Yu didn't think that it was necessary for her son to participate in this kind of mental arithmetic competition, but she couldn't resist Xia Fan's interest. When she heard Xia Fan say that Tang Guo could calculate 6 digits, she was really surprised. This little girl was only about 5 years old. She was really too young at this age. So she subconsciously thought that Tang Guo was talented, and at the same time, she couldn't do without training. System, wrong, the host is an old monster's soul. With strong spiritual power and soul, what is a mere 6 digits? Yang Yuxuan was a little confused and shook her head. No, she just went to kindergarten. In fact, she felt a little guilty and suddenly felt very uncomfortable. She really felt sorry for Guoguo. She didn't know that Guoguo was so smart. Guoguo, do you have a mental arithmetic class in kindergarten? Yu asked. Tang Guo shook her head. No. Yu understood that this was a real genius. She said to Yang Yuxuan, Guoguo is not simple. Raise her well and don't waste her talent. Tang Guo refused. She just wanted to teach Xia Fan how to be a good person, but she didn't expect that the psychologist would find out. I'll think about it. Yang Yuxuan touched Tang Guo's head, thinking about something. Her daughter was so outstanding that she couldn't waste her talent. So, what should she do? Yu saw through Yang Yuxuan's dilemma and said, actually, no matter what kind of talent one has, the most important thing is that children like it. They're still young, so it's best to do things based on their interests. Although talent was precious, she did not agree with confining a child to a circle just because of talent. Guoguo will start primary school next year, right? Yu asked. Yang Yuxuan glanced at Tang Guo and nodded. When Yu heard this, she immediately told him the primary school that Xia Fan was currently in and the various benefits of this school. Yang Yuxuan was stunned and said, I don't know if I can get a number. Yu, on the other hand, wasn't worried at all as she said, Guoguo should be able to go. Aside from the lottery, this primary school has special enrollment. With Guoguo's ability to calculate 6 digits in her head at such a young age, she should be able to be recruited. You can pay attention to it this year and sign up when the time comes. I see. Yang Yuxuan made a mental note of this. Okay, thank you. Tang Guo didn't directly take Yang Yuxuan home. Instead, she took her phone and found the private restaurant that the system had helped her find. She suggested that Yang Yuxuan eat there. Yang Yuxuan didn't refuse. In fact, she didn't lack money. Speaking of which, she still had premarital property. The apex. Chapter 45-56. In fact, Yang Yuxuan's background was much better than Tang Tailin's. Yang Yuxuan's family background was better, but her parents were more traditional. Her life was basically lived step by step, under the arrangements of her parents. Ever since she was pregnant, Yang Yuxuan had not eaten outside. The private restaurant that Tang Guo chose was not bad, and she ate very happily. She felt that as long as she walked out of that house, the surroundings would be very bright. She looked at Tang Guo eating happily and did not want to go back. That place was too depressing, and it made him unhappy. Tang Guo did not plan to bring Yang Yuxuan back. After lunch, he took her to the mall to buy beautiful accessories and dress her up. They did not go back for lunch. Jiang Juxiang had actually called them. When she heard that Yang Yuxuan was eating outside, Jiang Juxiang was furious. The food that Jiang Juxiang cooked was not delicious, and it was especially oily. With Yang Yuxuan's conditions, she could hire a maid who cooked well. Yang Yuxuan had the same intention, but Jiang Juxiang thought that the food was not delicious and was wasting money, so she took on all the work. In the beginning, Jiang Juxiang did not live with them. But after Yang Yuxuan was pregnant, Jiang Juxiang had no intention of leaving. Tang Tailin bought a house for Jiang Juxiang, but now Jiang Juxiang had moved here to live with them. Jiang Juxiang gave the previous house to her daughter. Her daughter's family lived there. Tang Tailin did not care. After all, they were all family. Moreover, Jiang Juxiang wanted Yang Yuxuan as her daughter-in-law. She took good care of her. At 3:00 in the afternoon, Tang Guo brought Yang Yuxuan home. As expected, the moment she got home, she heard Jiang Juxiang nagging about how it was not healthy to eat outside. When she saw Yang Yuxuan putting on makeup, she did not say anything this time, but her expression was ugly. 88,000 yuan. You're really generous, Jiang Juxiang said. It was obvious that she had heard about the Xia family's maternity products from the people downstairs. Everyone had used it, and Jiang Juxiang could not stand it. Besides, it was not good. Do you think Tylin's money is not money? Who spends like you? Tylin is earning money outside. You don't know how hard it is. Yang Yuxuan did not finish her sentence. She was not used to arguing with others. She spent Tang Tylin's money. Wasn't it all her own money? She had an apartment for rent in the city center under her name, as well as a shop for rent. The monthly rent added up to tens of thousands. In addition, she didn't spend much money. All her money was in financial management. She only spent a little of the annual interest. She didn't spend any of Tang Tylin's money. Even when she went to the restaurant to help with the accounts, she didn't get paid. Jiang Juxiang had always said that they were family, so there was no need to be so calculative. Tang Tylin didn't treat her as family at all. After being married for so many years, he had never taken the initiative to give her money. Speaking of which, Tang Tylin was not as good as Jiang Juxiang. At least Jiang Juxiang was willing to buy something for the child. As for the rest, there was nothing else. Tang Guo pulled Yang Yuxuan. Yang Yuxuan patted her head and led her into the room. She sat there again, looking out at the blue sky and white clouds. With Tang Guo by her side, the smile on Yang Yuxuan's face disappeared again. Mom! What happened to Guoguo? Yang Yuxuan did not retract her gaze, but she did not ignore Tang Guo either. Does Guoguo want to go to the primary school that doctor you mentioned? Guoguo is so smart. If you're willing to go, Mom will help you keep an eye out. I'll help you sign up next year. Peek. Chapter 45-57. Yes. Okay, I'll remember it. Yang Yuxuan's voice was soft. But I don't know if I can wait until then. I can't bear to part with Guoguo, and I want to take good care of you. If I can't take care of Guoguo, what will Guoguo do? Yang Yuxuan was in pain. She wanted freedom. She wanted to be free from everything. She didn't want to continue like this. She didn't know how to be free. She was so free, like a cloud falling from the sky. Guoguo is so obedient and sensible. He even knows how to earn pocket money. You can take care of yourself, right? Tang Guo held Yang Yuxuan's hand. I can take care of myself on the premise that you're by my side. If you're not by my side, other people will bully me when they see me. Yang Yuxuan was stunned. She had already imagined how a child without a mother would be bullied. Mom will try to stay with Guoguo for a longer time. Mom, you don't like it here. Tang Guo decided to persuade Yang Yuxuan to move out of this place. If she stayed here, Yang Yuxuan's condition wouldn't improve at all. Her efforts would be in vain. Jiang Juxiang alone was enough to push someone into the abyss. Yang Yuxuan was silent and didn't answer. Mom, I don't like it here either. Grandma doesn't like me, and Dad doesn't like me either. Dad leaves early and comes back late every day. He doesn't even look at me. The parents of my classmates come together to pick them up. I feel that my parents are different. Yang Yuxuan's heart was cold. She was miserable. Guoguo only wants Mom. Yang Yuxuan couldn't hold back her tears. Tang Guo quickly wiped her tears. Yang Yuxuan didn't know what to do. She knew that she was sick and that her condition was very wrong. She also wanted to get over it. But sometimes, she just couldn't control herself. Mom, can we move to another place? Just you and me. Yang Yuxuan was thinking. Move to another place. She immediately thought of the consequences. Jiang Juxiang would cry and make a scene, and Tang Tailin would speak up for Jiang Juxiang. Her family would definitely know. They would say that she was pretentious and sick. They would all talk at once and ask her to move back. The people downstairs would probably also say that she was a pregnant woman who was causing trouble every day. No one would understand why she moved out. Mom, think about it. Tang Guo didn't force him. She was ready to take the initiative. Tang Tailin couldn't forget that man, right? Since that was the case, she might as well help him. Yang Yuxuan had always been the one being criticized. She had been criticized countless times by the people around her, and everyone felt that she was being unreasonable. She was afraid of what would happen if she moved out. She was afraid that everyone would think that she was wrong. What if Tang Tailin was wrong? Tang Tailin had an affair with a man, and it was exposed in the end. Which man had been involved with him all this time? She had buried a bomb in the neighborhood. It was Li Yun. Li Yun's mother, Auntie Wu, was a blabbermouth. As long as they found out the truth first, Tang Tailin's reputation would be ruined. Tongzi, from today onwards, help Wen Lang and Tang Tailin remember each other. There must be something in their phones and social media accounts that they value very much. Make them inadvertently appear in front of them. People in Wen Lang's position will definitely pay attention to Tang Tailin's every move. Tang Guo's consciousness fell into the system space. Qi Xiao gave her some paper puppets. These things were very useful. I plan to make a paper puppet and let it seduce Tang Tailin. Help me register an identity. Register it as an orphan in a remote mountain area. Let this paper puppet become Tang Tailin's employee. She didn't want to destroy Wen Lang and Tang Tailin's relationship. She just wanted Wen Lang to feel threatened. It wouldn't be strange if he did something. When Tang Tailin and Wen Lang did something, she would leave evidence and let Li Yun know. Li Yun would definitely tell her family. When that time came, the entire neighborhood wouldn't be able to hide it. Perhaps this would agitate Yang Yuxuan, but it could be considered as breaking and building. With her watching over them, nothing would happen. Peak. Chapter 45-58. Little Fan, come out and eat. Yu Yu knocked on the door and found her son holding a book with a serious face. She walked over and patted him on the head. Xia Fan didn't seem to notice and continued to stare at the book in his hand. Tang Guo was 2 years younger than him, but she knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide a 6-digit number. She had never taken a mental arithmetic class. And he was still stumbling on the 5-digit number. For the first time, he felt what failure was and what it meant to be surpassed. He wanted to catch up. Little brat, eat before you play. Yu Yu gently patted the back of Xia Fan's head. Even if you want to surpass her, you have to eat. Xia Fan pursed his lips and put the book aside. Got it, Mom. Come quickly. Yu Yu was speechless. You're obviously a child, but you act like an old scholar every day. You're not like your father, and you don't miss me. I even suspect that you're not his biological child. Could it be a mistake? The probability of that is 0. Xia Fan analyzed seriously. When Mom gave birth to me, you were the only one in the delivery room. Dad arranged for people to be outside. It can't be a mistake. There was video recording the whole time. It would be strange if there was a mistake. If I had known, I wouldn't have told you this. Yu held her forehead and sat in her seat. Eat. I still have work to do later. Xie Fan ate 2 mouthfuls of rice and asked curiously, what work? Is there a new patient? It's the auntie who took the child today. Xie Fan responded and didn't ask any more questions. Her condition is already very serious. Now that she's pregnant, it's one disaster after another. It seems that she's 6 or 7 months pregnant and can't be controlled with drugs. This is the most difficult and dangerous time for her, Yu said. I'll talk to her later. We talked for almost an hour today. She didn't mention what happened to her at all. She doesn't trust me. You take good care of yourself, Xie Fan added. Patients don't feel safe. Yu said, do you dislike the food? If you don't want to eat, go back and play with your mental arithmetic. Speaking of which, little brat, what do you think today? Do you like to play with that little girl? Xie Fan paused for a moment and thought of the time when he was punished by Tanghua. He pursed his lips and said, I will surpass her. Good luck. Yu didn't say any discouraging words. Her son had a strong personality and was smart since he was young. He was especially talented in arithmetic and had never suffered any setbacks before. This time, it wasn't bad to let him experience what setbacks were. After Yu finished eating, she went to the study and turned on her computer to send a message to Yang Yuxuan. Yang Yuxuan was a little surprised when she received the message, but when she saw that it was Yu, her current doctor, she still replied politely. Originally, Yang Yuxuan wasn't in a good mood, but because of Yu, they chatted for almost 2 hours like friends. It was Yu who reminded her not to use her phone for too long. She only used it for about 2 hours at a time. After chatting with Yu, Yang Yuxuan felt a lot more relaxed. Chatting with Yu was very different from chatting with other people. No matter what she talked about, Yu would listen patiently without refuting. She would wait for her to finish and would not interrupt. That feeling of being valued was something she had experienced from the second person. At night, Tanghua still slept in the same room as Yang Yuxuan. She found that Yang Yuxuan would wake up when Tang Tailin came home. In the past, Yang Yuxuan would open the door to watch Tang Tailin. He would greet her indifferently and then do his own thing, especially like a co-tenant. The Peak. Chapter 45-59. Now, Yang Yuxuan didn't get up to take a look, but she would still open her eyes and stare at the door. She would only close her eyes when she heard that there was no more movement outside. Tang Tailin usually came back after 12 o'clock. Sometimes, he would come back even later. He really didn't fool around with anyone, and it wasn't that the restaurant needed him all the time. He just didn't like Yang Yuxuan staring at him all the time. Yang Yuxuan fell asleep, but Tanghua was still awake. She closed her eyes and was communicating with the system in her mind about what to do next. The system had already established an identity for the paper puppet. She also planned to release another paper puppet. One paper puppet was an adult. She wanted to get to know Tang Tailin and lure Wenlang out. Because it was an adult, she needed the system to help register its identity. As for the other paper puppet, she planned to turn it into a child and let the orphanage take it in. This child was a nail that she had planted for the female lead, Meng Shi, and the male lead, Wen Ran. She only needed to wait for the right time to use him. After thinking about this, she quietly got up and took out the 2 paper puppets. She went to the balcony outside and dripped some blood on the 2 paper puppets. Following her will, the 2 paper puppets instantly turned into what she imagined them to be. Jojo Chinese one was an adult in his early 20s, and the other was a child around 6 or 7 years old. This was because older children did not need to be adopted. If he was still a baby at that age, who knew where he would be adopted? You'll be called Sing Chen from now on. I've already registered your identity. Tang Gui took out a stack of red notes and gave it to him. This was her pocket money. Take the money first. Go and get a new identity tomorrow. Your survival will depend on yourself. You'll only exist for 100 years at most, not too long. After you complete your mission, I'll set you free. Tang Guo was very satisfied with Xing Chen's appearance. He was tall and muscular. He looked very strong. She even set up a character for him. He should be able to seduce Tang Tailin. Of course, she didn't really want Xing Chen to do anything to Tang Tailin. She just wanted to attract Wen Ran's attention and add some fun to their lives. Your name is in Yuan. You're a homeless child who doesn't know where you're from. Find a way to sneak into the orphanage. Tang Gui didn't give in Yuanhong any money, and the puppet wouldn't starve to death. You should familiarize yourself with this world first. Your task is to get close to Wen Ran and become his brother. No, it should be the kind of brother who treats him well and has a crush on him, but won't tell him. You should be the kind of brother who is absolutely loyal. Without my instructions, don't reveal it. But you have to make sure that once you reveal it, the other party will immediately recall everything that happened between you and him. Feelings had to be nurtured from a young age. Wen Ran would definitely like Meng Shi. This was their destiny. However, within Yuan's appearance and the fact that he was willing to risk his life for Wen Ran, she didn't believe that Wen Ran wouldn't care. Even if Wen Ran wasn't bent, Meng Shi would still have to reject him. The system remained silent. When the host started scheming, no one would be able to escape. Only Madam Host has the ability to set up such a long game of chess. Alright, you guys can go. And Yuan, remember to grow up according to your age. It's best if you grow up to be more delicate in the future. Vertex. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.